The summons arrived on a Tuesday, slipped under my apartment door while I was working the morning shift at Rosie's Diner. My neighbor Mrs. Chen was watching Emma, my 18-month-old daughter, like she did every weekday. When I got home at 2 p.m., exhausted from the breakfast rush, the official-looking envelope was waiting like a coiled snake. Petition for emergency custody. My former in-laws, Richard and Gloria Pemberton, were suing for custody of Emma. Their grounds? I was an unfit mother who couldn't provide a suitable environment for their granddaughter. I sank onto my second-hand couch, Emma babbling happily in her high chair, and read through legal terms that made my minimum wage heart race: financial instability, inappropriate childcare arrangements, career limitations, unsafe living conditions. 6 months. That's how long my husband James had been gone. 6 months since a drunk driver took him from us, leaving me a 25-year-old widow with a baby and a mountain of medical bills that his parents refused to help with. "We'll take Emma," Gloria had said at the funeral, not even looking at me. "You obviously can't manage." I'd thought it was grief talking. I should have known better. The court date was set for 3 weeks out. 3 weeks to somehow prove I deserved to keep my own daughter. I couldn't afford a lawyer, could barely afford rent and formula, but I'd figure it out. I had to. "Don't you worry, baby girl," I whispered to Emma, kissing her chubby cheeks. "Mama's not letting you go anywhere." The morning of the hearing, I put on my only court-appropriate outfit, a black skirt suit I'd bought at Goodwill for James's funeral. Emma wore her prettiest dress, the yellow one with daisies that James had bought before he died. The courthouse steps seemed impossibly tall. Inside, the Pembertons waited with their lawyer, a shark in a $3,000 suit. Gloria's lips pursed when she saw me. "That's the suit you wore to my son's funeral," she hissed. "Couldn't even buy something appropriate for court." "Good morning to you too, Gloria," I managed. Richard didn't acknowledge me at all. To him, I'd ceased existing the moment they learned their Harvard-educated son had married a waitress. They'd boycotted our wedding, ignored Emma's birth announcement, and only acknowledged their granddaughter after James died, when they realized she was their only link to him. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Samuel Morrison." I stood on shaking legs, then froze. Judge Morrison, Sam, my 6 a.m. regular who ordered black coffee and wheat toast, no butter, who always left a $5 tip on a $3 order, who knew my name and asked about Emma every morning. His eyes found mine across the courtroom, and he smiled, that same warm smile I served with his coffee. "Good morning, everyone, please be seated." Then, looking directly at me, "Hello, Maria. I see you're having a much harder morning than usual." The Pemberton's lawyer, Mr. Ashford, stood so fast his chair scraped. "Your Honor, do you know the defendant? Ms. Rodriguez?" "Yes, I do. She serves me coffee every morning at Rosie's Diner, has for the past 2 years. Is that a problem, Counselor? We request you recuse yourself due to bias." "Denied." Judge Morrison's voice was calm but firm. "Knowing someone professionally doesn't constitute bias, unless you're suggesting that everyone who's ever bought coffee is unfit to judge character." "No, Your Honor." "Good. Then let's proceed. I've reviewed the petition. Mr. and Mrs. Pemberton, you're seeking emergency custody of Emma Rodriguez based on claims that her mother is unfit. Please present your case." Mr. Ashford stood, straightening his tie. "Your Honor, Ms. Rodriguez is a single mother working as a waitress. She makes minimum wage plus tips, hardly enough to provide for a child. She lives in a 1-bedroom apartment in a questionable neighborhood. She leaves the baby with an elderly neighbor while she works. The child deserves better." "I see." Judge Morrison nodded. "And what do the Pembertons offer?" "A 7-bedroom home in Westfield, private schools, a full-time nanny, every advantage their granddaughter deserves as James Pemberton's heir." "Interesting." The judge turned to me. "Ms. Rodriguez, do you have representation?" "No, Your Honor, I couldn't afford." "That's quite all right. Tell me about your arrangements for Emma." I stood, my voice shaking at first, then growing stronger. "I work 5 days a week, 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mrs. Chen watches Emma. She's not just my neighbor, she's a retired pediatric nurse who raised 4 children. She charges me half what any daycare would because she loves Emma." "And your financial situation?" "I make ends meet. We have food, shelter, healthcare through the restaurant. No, I can't buy her designer clothes or fancy toys, but she's loved, Your Honor. She's happy." Gloria scoffed loudly. Judge Morrison's eyes sharpened. "Mrs. Pemberton, do you have something to add?" "That girl trapped our son," Gloria burst out. "Got pregnant to force him to marry her. Now she's keeping our granddaughter in poverty out of spite." "I loved James," I said quietly. "We loved each other." "Love?" Richard finally spoke. "You destroyed his future. He was supposed to join my firm, marry someone suitable. Instead, he was working construction to support you. He was happy, I insisted. He chose. Order. Judge Morrison interrupted gently. I have some questions for the petitioners. Mr. and Mrs. Pemberton, when did you last see your granddaughter before filing this petition? Silence. Mr. Ashford, my clients have been estranged from Ms. Rodriguez. I see. So when exactly did you observe these unsafe living conditions? More silence. Let me be more specific. Have you ever been to Ms. Rodriguez's apartment? No, Gloria admitted reluctantly. Have you met Mrs. Chen? No. Have you, in fact, had any contact with your granddaughter since your son's funeral 6 months ago? She kept Emma from us, Gloria exploded. I pulled out my phone. Your Honor, may I? At his nod, I scrolled through messages. Text to Gloria. 2 weeks after the funeral, Emma took her first steps today. Would you like to visit? No response. Email 3 months ago. Emma's first birthday is next week. You're welcome to come. No response. Voicemail last month. Emma said Gamma today. I think she'd love to meet you. No response. You were probably coaching her to call you Mama. Gloria sneered. We know your type. My type? I felt my spine straighten. What type is that? Gloria? Your Honor, Mr. Ashford intervened. My clients are prepared to offer Ms. Rodriguez generous visitation. Visitation? Judge Morrison's eyebrows rose. With her own daughter? How magnanimous. Tell me, counselor, what makes a parent unfit? Well, financial instability, inadequate housing. Is poverty a crime, Mr. Ashford? No, but, is working an honest job to support your child neglect? Of course not, but, then what, exactly, makes Ms. Rodriguez unfit? Because from where I sit, I see a young widow working hard to provide for her daughter. I see a mother who sought appropriate childcare. I see someone who repeatedly tried to include the grandparents in the child's life, only to be ignored until they decided they wanted the child without the mother. He turned to me. Maria, tell me about yesterday morning. I blinked, confused. Yesterday? Yes, you served me coffee at 6:07 a.m. You looked tired. Tell me why. Emma was teething. She kept us both up most of the night, and yet you were at work, on time, pleasant and professional as always. What did you talk about while pouring my coffee? I smiled slightly. You asked about Emma. I showed you a picture of her with her new toy, a second-hand piano she loves to bang on. And what did you tell me about your plans? That I'm saving for community college. I want to become a paralegal. Mrs. Chen will watch Emma during evening classes. Judge Morrison nodded. I've been watching you for 2 years. Maria, every morning, no matter how tired, how stressed, how grief-stricken after your husband's death, you show up, you work, you smile, you ask about everyone else's problems while managing your own. He looked at the Pembertons. You want to know what makes a fit parent? It's not money or mansions or private schools. It's showing up. It's sacrifice. It's love put into action every single day. But Your Honor, Mr. Ashford tried again. The advantages. Mr. Pemberton. Judge Morrison interrupted. You're a successful businessman. Tell me, what's more valuable, an inheritance given or a work ethic earned? Richard shifted uncomfortably. I don't see. What values did your son learn from Ms. Rodriguez that made him choose construction work over your firm? What did he see in her that made him brave enough to follow his heart instead of your plan? James was confused. Gloria insisted. She manipulated. I have a letter here. Judge Morrison pulled out a document, filed with the court by someone who knew James well. May I read it? At their lawyer's nod, he began. To whom it may concern, James Pemberton was my best friend from college through his death. I watched him transform from a miserable law student into a joyful husband and father. Maria didn't trap him, she freed him. He loved building things with his hands. He loved their tiny apartment because it was theirs. He loved their life because it was real. His parents never accepted that. Now they want to steal what they couldn't control. Don't let them. Kevin Chen, no relation to the babysitter. The Pembertons were pale now, but Judge Morrison wasn't finished. One more question for you, Mr. and Mrs. Pemberton. What does Emma call her stuffed elephant? They looked at each other blankly. Ms. Rodriguez? Mr. Peanuts, I said immediately, because James bought it from a street vendor who was selling peanuts too. She won't sleep without him. What's her favorite food? Again, blank stares from the Pembertons. Mashed sweet potatoes, I answered, but only if I make airplane noises. When did she start walking? Silence. 10 months, 3 days. She walked to James's picture on the mantel. Judge Morrison leaned back. I've heard enough, Mr. and Mrs. Pemberton. You don't know your granddaughter. You know she exists. You know she's your last link to your son, but you don't know her. You see her as a possession to be acquired, not a child to be loved. That's not, Gloria started. You had 6 months to be grandparents. Instead, you waited until you thought you could eliminate her mother and take her. That's not love, that's control. He continued. Ms. Rodriguez, you've shown that despite limited financial resources, you provide Emma with stability, love, and appropriate care. Being a waitress doesn't make you unfit. Being widowed doesn't make you incapable. Being poor doesn't make you unworthy. Your Honor, Mr. Ashford made one last attempt. Surely some arrangement. Oh, I agree, which is why I'm ordering the following. Petition for emergency custody is denied. Ms. Rodriguez retains full custody of Emma Rodriguez. However, grandparents can be a valuable part of a child's life. If the Pembertons wish to develop a relationship with Emma, they may have supervised visitation every other Saturday, 2 to 5 p.m., at Ms. Rodriguez's discretion. Supervised? Richard sputtered. By Ms. Rodriguez, you've shown you don't respect her as Emma's mother. Until you do, you don't get unsupervised access to Emma. Furthermore, if you wish to contribute to Emma's future, you may establish a college fund in her name, accessible only when she turns 18, but any financial support does not grant you additional rights or influence over her upbringing. Gloria was crying now, angry, bitter tears. You can't do this. I can and I have. Ms. Rodriguez, do you have any questions? No, Your Honor, thank you. Don't thank me. Thank yourself for being the mother Emma needs. Court is adjourned. As everyone filed out, Judge Morrison caught my eye. Maria, same time tomorrow? Black coffee, wheat toast, no butter, I confirmed, holding Emma close. And pictures of Emma, I hope. My wife loves hearing about her milestones. Outside the courthouse, the Pembertons and their lawyer huddled in defeat. Gloria approached me one last time. This isn't over, she hissed. Yes, it is, I said firmly, but it doesn't have to be. I've never wanted to keep Emma from you. I want her to know her grandparents, but as her grandparents, not as her owners. When you're ready for that, you have my number. 6 months later, they called. It started slowly, awkward Saturday visits where Gloria learned to hold Emma properly and Richard discovered his granddaughter's infectious giggle. They watched me make those airplane noises with sweet potatoes. They learned about Mr. Peanuts and teething and how Emma liked to dance to the oldie station. Gradually, they began to see what James had seen, not a gold digger or a trap, but a young woman doing her best, a mother who'd choose love over money every time. The college fund they established grew quietly in the background, but more importantly, Emma grew up knowing her grandparents, flawed, human, but trying. And every morning at 6:07 a.m., Judge Morrison got his black coffee and wheat toast with a side of Emma stories, because sometimes the best justice isn't about law books and precedents. Sometimes it's about recognizing that a waitress who shows up every day, loves fiercely, and dreams of paralegal classes is exactly the kind of mother every child deserves. You know, Judge Morrison told me years later when Emma started kindergarten, that morning in court, I asked about the elephant's name because I already knew the answer. You'd told me the week before, complete with a picture of Emma hugging Mr. Peanuts. Why ask then? Because anyone can claim to love a child, but only a real parent knows their stuffed elephant's name and the story behind it. Money can't buy that kind of love, Maria. It never could. He was right. It couldn't. But love, real love, the showing up every day kind, that could buy everything that mattered. Even justice.
I should have known something was wrong when my twin sister showed up to Christmas dinner wearing a Cartier bracelet worth more than my rent. My name is Skylar, and I'm about to tell you how my own family systematically destroyed my life, and how I made sure they paid for every single penny. Let me paint you a picture of my childhood. Picture this. 2 identical twins, born 3 minutes apart. Lexi came out first, screaming bloody murder and demanding attention. I followed quietly, apparently already resigned to being second place. That pretty much set the tone for the next 28 years. Every ballet recital, every school play, every family gathering. Lexi was the star. She'd pirouette across the stage in her pink tutu while I sat in the audience, watching our parents beam with pride. When report cards came home, Mum would coo over Lexi's C+ in art class, while barely glancing at my straight A's. Skylar's just naturally smart, Dad would say, ruffling my hair absently. She doesn't need the encouragement. What I needed was to matter. What I got was a pat on the head and the expectation that I'd always be fine on my own. Our grandfather changed everything when he died 5 years ago. Harold Whitfield was old-school money, the kind of man who wore three-piece suits to breakfast and believed character was built through adversity. He left each of his grandchildren a trust fund, substantial ones. Mine, Lexi's, and our younger brother Zachary's was supposed to be managed by Uncle Jeffrey until we turned 30. Equal shares, Grandfather had said in his will, to give each child the foundation for a meaningful life. I remember the day Jeffrey explained the trust to us. We were all sitting in his mahogany-panelled office, the kind of place that smelled like leather and old money. Lexi was texting throughout the entire meeting, her manicured nails clicking against her phone screen. "The funds will be distributed monthly," Jeffrey said, sliding papers across his desk. "Enough to cover living expenses, education, and reasonable lifestyle costs." "Define reasonable," Lexi had said, finally looking up from her phone. Jeffrey smiled indulgently. "Don't worry, sweetheart, you'll be well taken care of." That should have been my first red flag. For the first year, everything seemed normal. I used my monthly distribution to pay for my tiny studio apartment, groceries, and to save for law school. Lexi moved into a trendy loft downtown and started what she called her lifestyle brand, basically posting Instagram photos of her brunch plates and designer handbags. But then I started noticing things. Lexi's apartment got bigger. Her clothes got more expensive. Her vacations got more exotic. Meanwhile, my monthly distribution stayed exactly the same, barely enough to cover rent and ramen noodles. "Mum," I said one evening, when I'd worked up the courage to visit their house, "I think there might be an issue with my trust fund." She was arranging flowers in the foyer, the kind of elaborate arrangement that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "What kind of issue, honey? The amount seems smaller than it should be, and Lexi's lifestyle seems to be getting more expensive every month." Mum's hands stilled on the roses. "Skylar, you know your sister has different needs than you do." "Different needs? Lexi's building her brand. She needs to maintain a certain image. You're more practical. You've always been good with money." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Are you saying her trust fund is bigger than mine?" "I'm saying Jeffrey knows what he's doing. He's making sure both of you are taken care of appropriately." Dad walked in then, loosening his tie after another day at his consulting firm. "What's going on?" "Skylar's worried about money," Mum said, her tone suggesting I was being dramatic. "You'll be fine, kiddo," Dad said, not even looking at me as he headed for his study. "You always land on your feet." That night, I sat in my studio apartment eating cereal for dinner and staring at my bank statement. The numbers didn't lie. While Lexi was posting photos from Cabo, I was counting quarters to do laundry. I pulled out my laptop and started researching trust fund law. What I found made my blood run cold. Executors had broad discretion in fund management, but they were supposed to act in the beneficiary's best interests. All beneficiaries. I sent myself an email that night, the subject line reading, "I think they're stealing from me." I had no idea that email would become the first piece of evidence in the case that would destroy my entire family. 6 months later, I was working double shifts at a coffee shop while Lexi bought a BMW. "Can you believe this weather?" my co-worker Janet said, wiping down the espresso machine. "Perfect day for the beach." I nodded, calculating tips in my head. $43. Enough for groceries if I stuck to the clearance section. The bell above the door chimed, and my stomach dropped. Lexi strutted in wearing a sundress that probably cost more than I made in a week. Designer sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. "Oh my God, Skylar!" She rushed over, her heels clicking on the tile floor. "I didn't know you worked here." "Yeah, well, someone has to pay the bills." She ordered a complicated drink, oat milk latte with vanilla syrup and extra foam, then leaned against the counter while I made it. "So I have the most amazing news," she said, pulling out her phone. "Look at this." The screen showed a sleek black BMW convertible with a giant red bow on the hood. "Early birthday present from Uncle Jeffrey," she squealed. "He said I deserve something special after all my hard work on the brand." I nearly dropped the milk steamer. "He bought you a car?" Well, technically, the trust bought it. But Jeffrey said it was a business expense since I need reliable transportation for meetings. What meetings? Lexi waved her hand dismissively. Influencer stuff. You wouldn't understand. I finished her drink with shaking hands and slid it across the counter. That'll be $6.50. Oh, can you just comp it? Family discount? She winked. I can't comp drinks, Lexi. She sighed dramatically and pulled out a credit card, black, with her name embossed in gold letters. Fine, but this is so awkward. After she left, I stood there staring at the credit card receipt. The name on the card wasn't just Lexi Ramos. It was Lexi Ramos, Whitfield Trust Account. That evening, I spread law school applications across my tiny kitchen table. The deadlines were approaching fast, and I still needed to figure out how to pay for the LSAT prep course. My phone buzzed. A text from Mum. Family dinner Sunday, 6 p.m, don't be late. Sunday dinner at my parents' house was always an exercise in feeling inadequate, but I went anyway. Maybe I was a glutton for punishment. I arrived to find Lexi already there, showing off her new jewellery to Mum in the living room. These are from that little boutique in Soho, Lexi was saying, turning her wrist to catch the light on a tennis bracelet. The owner personally selected them for me. They're gorgeous, sweetheart, Mum cooed. You have such exquisite taste. I cleared my throat. Hey, everyone. Skylar, Dad called from his recliner. How's the coffee business? It's fine. Actually, I wanted to talk to you all about something. Lexi looked up from her bracelet display. Please tell me you're not going to lecture us about money again. I'm not lecturing anyone. I'm asking questions. I pulled out a folder I'd been preparing. I've been looking into trust fund regulations, and I think there might be some irregularities in how mine is being managed. The room went quiet except for the ticking of the grandfather clock. What kind of irregularities? Dad asked, his voice careful. Well, for starters, Lexi just got a BMW charged to her trust account as a business expense. Meanwhile, I can barely afford groceries. Lexi's building something, Mum said sharply. She needs investment capital. Investment capital for what? Instagram posts. Lexi stood up, her face flushed. Excuse me? My brand is a legitimate business venture. What business? You post pictures of your breakfast? I have over 50,000 followers. Followers don't pay the bills, Lexi. Girls, please, Dad said. But his voice lacked conviction. Mum crossed her arms. Skylar, your sister has different needs than you do. She's always been more social, more creative. She needs resources to nurture those gifts. And what about my gifts? What about law school? You're smart enough to get scholarships, Mum said. You don't need handouts. The word handouts hit me like a slap. It's not a handout. It's my inheritance. It's family money, Dad said quietly. And family takes care of family. Then why am I working 60 hours a week while Lexi gets cars and jewellery? Lexi threw her hands up. Because you're bitter and jealous. You've always resented that people actually like me. People like your money, Lexi. There's a difference. She gasped, like I'd physically struck her. How dare you? Enough. Mum stood between us. Skylar, I think you should leave. I stared at her, my own mother, choosing sides like she had my entire life. Fine, but this isn't over. As I walked to my beat-up Honda, I heard Lexi crying inside, Mum comforting her with soothing words she'd never used for me. That night, I called every legal aid clinic in the city until I found someone willing to talk. Marcus Young, an estate attorney, agreed to meet me for coffee. Bring everything, he said. Bank statements, trust documents, anything you can find. I hung up and looked around my studio apartment. On my desk sat a framed photo of grandfather from his funeral. He'd always talked about integrity, about earning what you received. They don't realise what they've created, I whispered to his picture. The next morning, I found something that changed everything. Hidden in my old college textbooks was a folder I'd forgotten about. Documents from grandfather's estate that Jeffrey had given me years ago. Most of it was standard legal language, but one page made my heart race. It was a partial copy of the will, and at the bottom, cut off mid-sentence, were the words, "In the event of fraudulent or dishonest behaviour by any beneficiary." The rest was missing, but I knew Jeffrey had the complete version locked away in his office. I was going to find it. Marcus Young's office smelled like old books and fresh coffee. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe late 30s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "So you think your uncle is embezzling from your trust fund?" he asked, spreading my documents across his desk. "I don't think it. I know it." I pulled out my phone and showed him Lexi's Instagram. "This is from last week. She's in the Maldives. The week before she was shopping in Milan." Marcus scrolled through the photos, his eyebrows rising. "And your monthly distribution is?" $1,800, barely covers rent. While hers appears to be... He gestured at a photo of Lexi in a private jet. "Considerably more. The thing is, I found this." I handed him the partial will document. "It mentions something about fraudulent behaviour, but the rest is cut off." Marcus studied the paper carefully. "This is interesting, very interesting, but we need the complete document. Jeffrey has it locked in his office safe. Then we need to find another way to get it." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "What about the original lawyer who drafted the will?" "Matthew Murphy. He's still practicing, but he works closely with Jeffrey now." "Perfect. Let me make a call." While Marcus worked his legal magic, I threw myself into survival mode. I picked up a second job waiting tables at a diner, working nights after my coffee shop shifts. The money was terrible, but every dollar counted. My friend Fatima found me there one evening, dead on my feet after a 14-hour day. "Skylar? What the hell?" She slid into a booth, her nurse scrubs wrinkled from her own long shift. "You look like death." "Thanks for the pep talk." I poured her coffee without being asked. "I'm serious. When's the last time you slept?" "Sleep is for people who don't have to pay rent in quarters." Fatima grabbed my wrist. "Talk to me. What's really going on?" I glanced around the empty diner, then sat across from her. "My family is stealing from me." "What do you mean stealing?" I told her everything. The trust fund, Lexi's lifestyle, my parents' dismissal, the partial will document. Fatima listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each detail. "Those bastards," she said finally. "Your own family? The worst part is they act like I'm being unreasonable, like I should be grateful for scraps while Lexi lives like a princess." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to get what's mine. All of it." The next week, Marcus called with news. "I spoke with Matthew Murphy. He's willing to meet, but he's nervous about discussing the trust without Jeffrey present." "Can you get him to talk?" "Maybe, but I need you to be very careful about what you say. We can't let Jeffrey know we're investigating." The meeting was set for the following Tuesday at Matthew's downtown office. I took the morning off from both jobs, which meant losing money I couldn't afford to lose. Matthew Murphy was exactly what you'd expect from a trust fund lawyer. Expensive suit, perfect teeth, and the kind of handshake that said he'd never worried about rent money. "Miss Schuyler," he said, gesturing to a leather chair. "Marcus tells me you have some questions about your grandfather's estate." "Just trying to understand the distribution structure," I said carefully. "It seems like there might be some discrepancies." Matthew's smile flickered. "Discrepancies?" "The monthly amounts don't seem to match what I understood from the original will." "Well, Jeffrey has broad discretionary powers as executor. He's authorized to adjust distributions based on individual needs and circumstances." "What kind of circumstances?" Matthew glanced at Marcus, then back at me. "Educational expenses, business investments, lifestyle maintenance. Your sister's brand development, for instance, requires significant capital investment." "And my law school plans? Have you formally applied? Submitted a business plan for your education?" I felt heat rise in my cheeks. "I didn't know I needed a business plan to use my own inheritance for school." "It's not quite that simple," Matthew said. "The trust has specific guidelines about educational disbursements." "Can I see those guidelines?" Another glance at Marcus. "I'd need to check with Jeffrey about releasing additional documentation." "Of course you would." Marcus stepped in smoothly. "What about the integrity provisions? I believe Harold mentioned something about character requirements for beneficiaries." Matthew went very still. "I'm not sure what you mean." "The clause about fraudulent behaviour. It was mentioned in some preliminary documents. I really can't discuss specific provisions without Jeffrey's approval." But his face had gone pale, and I knew we'd hit something important. That evening, I was walking home from my diner shift when I saw them. Lexi and her best friend Kinley stumbling out of an upscale cocktail bar, clearly drunk and laughing loudly. "Skylar!" Lexi spotted me and waved dramatically. "Oh my God, you look so tired," Kinley giggled. "Is that your work uniform?" I looked down at my stained apron and polyester dress. "Yeah, some of us have jobs." "Jobs are so overrated," Lexi said, swaying slightly. "I made $3,000 today just posting about face masks." $3,000? Brand partnership, Kinley explained. Lexi's rate is like $500 per post now. Plus, Uncle Jeffrey approved a new marketing budget, Lexi added. $20,000 for brand development. My vision went red. $20,000? Don't be jealous, Skylar. Not everyone can be an influencer. "You're right," I said quietly. "Not everyone can steal from their family and call it a career." Lexi's face twisted. "Excuse me? You heard me. I'm not stealing anything. This is my money." "Is it? Because last I checked, we were supposed to have equal trusts." Kinley stepped between us. "Maybe we should go, Lex." "No, I want to hear this," Lexi said, her voice getting louder. "Tell me how I'm stealing, Skylar. Tell me how your boring, bitter life is somehow my fault." People were starting to stare. A few had their phones out. "You want to know the truth?" I stepped closer. "You're a spoiled brat who's never worked a day in her life, and you're bleeding our grandfather's legacy dry while I work 60 hours a week just to survive. At least I'm not a jealous loser who can't stand to see her sister succeed." "Succeed at what? Taking selfies?" Lexi threw her drink at me. The cold liquid hit my chest, soaking through my uniform. "You're pathetic," she hissed. "No wonder Mum and Dad don't care about you." I stood there dripping, surrounded by strangers with cameras, while my twin sister laughed at my humiliation. "You're right," I said finally. "I am pathetic, but not for the reasons you think." I walked away, leaving them giggling behind me. But as I turned the corner, I heard Kinley say something that made me stop. "God, Lex, you're so lucky your uncle hooked you up with that trust fund access. Most people have to wait until they're 30. "I know, right? Jeffrey's the best. He totally gets that I need the money now, not later." I pulled out my phone and started recording. The next morning, Marcus called with the breakthrough we'd been waiting for. "I know how to get into that safe," he said. "But you're not going to like it." "Try me." "We're going to need Jeffrey's fingerprints." "You want me to steal my uncle's fingerprints?" I stared at Marcus across his desk. "Not steal, borrow." He pulled out a small device that looked like a smartphone case. "This scanner can lift prints from any smooth surface. Coffee cup, wine glass, door handle. This feels very illegal. It's a grey area, but if Jeffrey is embezzling from your trust, we need proof." I took the scanner, my hands shaking slightly. How do I even get close enough to him? Family dinner? Holiday party? Any social situation where he'd handle glassware? Perfect timing. Mum had texted that morning about Thanksgiving dinner. Actually, I might have an opportunity. 3 days later, I stood in my parents' kitchen, scanner hidden in my purse, watching Jeffrey carve the turkey like he owned the place. "Skylar, honey, can you help me with the wine?" Mom asked. I grabbed the bottle of expensive Bordeaux, probably worth more than my monthly rent, and started pouring. Jeffrey held out his glass first. "Thank you, sweetheart. You know, your mother tells me you're thinking about law school." "Thinking about it, yeah. Expensive endeavour. Have you considered other career paths? Something more practical?" I forced a smile. "Law seems pretty practical to me." Of course, but the debt load these days." He shook his head. "Lexi's approach is much smarter, building wealth through social media, leveraging her natural talents." "Right, her natural talents." Lexi bounced into the kitchen wearing a dress that probably cost more than my car. "Are we talking about my brand? I just hit 75,000 followers." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Jeffrey said, raising his glass. "To success." Everyone toasted. I watched Jeffrey's fingers wrap around the crystal stem, leaving perfect prints. After dinner, I volunteered to do dishes. "You all relax. I've got this." I carefully collected Jeffrey's wine glass, wrapping it in a dish towel. In the bathroom, I used Marcus's scanner, watching the green light confirm a successful capture. "Got them," I texted Marcus. "Perfect. Meet me at the office tomorrow at 6 a.m. Jeffrey's law firm occupied 3 floors of a downtown high-rise. At 6 a.m. on a Saturday, the building was empty, except for security guards who barely looked up from their newspapers. Marcus had somehow gotten us access. I didn't ask how. We took the elevator to the 15th floor, my heart pounding with each ding. "His office is down here," Marcus whispered, leading me through a maze of mahogany and marble. Jeffrey's office was exactly what you'd expect. Massive desk, leather chairs, and walls lined with law books that probably hadn't been opened in years. Behind his desk sat a large safe, built into the wall. "There," I pointed. Marcus pulled out the scanner and pressed it against the safe's fingerprint reader. Nothing happened. "Try again," I whispered. He pressed it again. Still nothing. "Maybe the angle's wrong," I suggested. On the 3rd try, the safe clicked open. Inside were stacks of documents, some cash, and several file folders. Marcus grabbed everything while I kept watch at the door. "Holy shit," he breathed, flipping through papers. "Skylar, look at this." He handed me a document titled Whitfield Family Trust, Complete Distribution Records. The numbers made my stomach drop. Over the past 3 years, Lexi had received $847,000 from the trust. I'd received $97,000. "That can't be right," I whispered. "It gets worse." Marcus showed me another page. "Look at the approved expenses. BMW, $85,000. European vacation, $23,000. Apartment deposit and 6 months rent, $31,000. Designer wardrobe, $18,000. The list went on and on. "She's been living off nearly $1 million while I've been eating ramen," I said. "Keep looking," Marcus said, still digging through files. I found it at the bottom of the stack, the complete will, including the section that had been cut off from my copy. In the event of fraudulent or dishonest behaviour by any beneficiary, or the misuse of trust funds for purposes contrary to the grantor's intentions, said beneficiary shall forfeit their entire share of the trust. The forfeited amount shall be redistributed to the remaining honest beneficiaries, with preference given to those who have demonstrated integrity and responsible financial management. I read it 3 times to make sure I understood. "Marcus," I said quietly, "if Lexi has been using trust money fraudulently, she loses everything, and it all goes to you. What about Jeffrey? He's the one who approved the distributions." Marcus flipped to another section. "Executors who breach their fiduciary duty are subject to criminal prosecution and personal liability for all misappropriated funds." We photographed everything, then carefully returned the documents to the safe. As we left the building, I felt like I was walking on air. "What's our next move?" I asked. "We need more evidence. Recordings, witnesses, documentation of the fraudulent expenses." "I already have some recordings from that night outside the bar." "Good. But we need more. Can you get Lexi to admit to misusing the funds?" "She's not exactly subtle when she's drunk." "Perfect. Set up another encounter. Get her talking about her expenses, how Jeffrey helps her access the money." That afternoon, I called Lexi. "Hey, it's me. I wanted to apologize for Thanksgiving. I was stressed about work." "Oh," she sounded surprised. "Okay. Want to grab drinks tonight? My treat." "Your treat? Can you afford that?" I gritted my teeth. "I can manage 1 round." We met at the same upscale bar where she'd thrown her drink at me. I ordered the cheapest wine on the menu and let her get expensive cocktails. "So how's the brand going?" I asked, phone recording in my purse. "Amazing. Jeffrey just approved another marketing budget increase. $25,000 this time." "Wow, that's a lot. How does that work exactly?" "Oh, it's easy. I just tell him what I need for business expenses, and he transfers it from the trust. No questions asked." "No questions at all?" "Well, sometimes he asks for receipts, but honestly, I just make stuff up. Like, I'll say I spent $3,000 on a photo shoot when really I bought shoes." She giggled. "He never checks." "That's convenient." "I know, right? Mom always said Jeffrey would take care of me, and he totally does. Way better than he takes care of you." "What do you mean?" "Come on, Skylar. You think it's an accident that your distributions are so small? Jeffrey knows you don't need much. You're not building anything important. My hands clenched around my wine glass. And what you're doing is important? Of course. I'm an influencer. I'm building a brand, creating content, inspiring people. By posting pictures of your breakfast. You're so jealous, she slurred, already on her third cocktail. You can't stand that I'm successful and you're not. You're right, I said. I am jealous. Jealous that you get to steal from our grandfather's legacy while I work myself to death. I'm not stealing anything. Then what do you call using trust money to buy designer clothes and calling it a business expense? Lexi's face went red. That's not... Jeffrey said it was fine. Jeffrey said fraud was fine. It's not fraud. It's creative accounting. I smiled and finished my wine. Thanks for clearing that up. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Matthew Murphy. Miss Schuyler, your uncle would like to schedule a family meeting. He says it's time to address your concerns about the trust once and for all. When? This Friday at 2 p.m, his office. I hung up and immediately called Marcus. They're calling a meeting, I said. Perfect. That means they're worried. Are you ready for this? I've been ready for 3 years. Remember, once you play this card, there's no going back. Your family will never forgive you. I thought about Lexi's laughter as she threw her drink at me. About my parents dismissing my concerns. About Jeffrey's condescending smile. Good, I said. I don't want their forgiveness. I want justice. Friday morning, I met Marcus and Fatima at a diner near Jeffrey's office. My hands shook as I tried to eat breakfast. You don't have to do this, Fatima said, squeezing my arm. We could find another way. There is no other way. I pushed eggs around my plate. They've had 3 years to do the right thing. Marcus spread documents across the table. Everything's here. Bank records, recordings, the complete will. Your case is airtight. What if they deny everything? They can't. The numbers don't lie. He tapped a folder thick with evidence. Jeffrey embezzled over $700,000. Lexi knowingly participated in fraud. Your parents enabled it. And Zachary? Clean. His distributions have been exactly what they should be. I thought about my younger brother, always quiet at family gatherings, always watching. He knew something was wrong. Smart kid. He stayed out of it. At 1:45 p.m, I walked into Jeffrey's office building. The elevator ride felt like ascending to my own execution, except I wasn't the one who was going to die today. The conference room was exactly as I'd imagined. Long mahogany table, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Everyone was already there when I arrived. Jeffrey sat at the head of the table in his expensive suit, looking every inch the successful attorney. Mom and Dad flanked him on one side, both wearing their disappointed parent expressions. Lexi sat across from them, scrolling through her phone and looking bored. Zachary had claimed the chair farthest from everyone else. Schuyler, Jeffrey said, standing to shake my hand. Thank you for coming. Thanks for finally agreeing to meet. Matthew Murphy sat near the windows with a legal pad, ready to take notes. Marcus entered behind me and took the seat next to mine. I wasn't aware you were bringing representation, Jeffrey said, his smile tightening. I wasn't aware I needed it, I replied. But here we are. Jeffrey gestured for everyone to sit. Well then, let's clear this up once and for all. Schuyler, you've expressed concerns about your trust fund management. I want to address those concerns directly. Good. Let's start with the numbers. I pulled out my folder and placed it on the table. According to my records, over the past 3 years, I have received approximately $97,000 from the trust. That sounds about right. Jeffrey nodded. And Lexi has received $847,000. The room went silent. Lexi looked up from her phone. That can't be right, Mum said quickly. It's exactly right. I slid copies of the bank records across the table. Every transaction, every transfer, every business expense. Jeffrey's face had gone pale, but he maintained his composure. Lexi's situation is more complex. She has legitimate business expenses that require business expenses like an $85,000 BMW. That was a necessary investment in her brand. What about the $23,000 European vacation? Networking opportunities? The $18,000 shopping spree at Bergdorf's? Jeffrey's jaw tightened. I don't appreciate your tone, Skylar. And I don't appreciate being robbed by my own family. Nobody robbed you. Lexi finally spoke up. You're just jealous because I actually made something of myself. Made something of yourself? You're a professional Instagram poster living off stolen money. It's not stolen. Uncle Jeffrey approved everything. Did he approve you lying about expenses? Making up fake business receipts? Lexi's face went red. I never... You told me yourself. Last week at the bar, you said you made up receipts and Jeffrey never checked. I was drunk, I didn't mean... So you admit you lied about expenses? That's not... Jeffrey, tell her. All eyes turned to Jeffrey, who was staring at the bank records like they might spontaneously combust. There may have been some irregularities in the documentation process, he said carefully. Irregularities? Marcus spoke for the first time. Mr. Jeffrey, you've systematically embezzled from one beneficiary to fund another's lifestyle. That's not an irregularity, that's fraud. Now wait just a minute. No, you wait. I stood up, my voice getting stronger. I've waited 3 years. I've worked 60-hour weeks while my sister bought sports cars. I've eaten ramen while she vacationed in Europe. I've been treated like a second-class citizen in my own family while you all got rich off my inheritance. Skylar, please, Dad said. Let's discuss this calmly. Calmly? Dad? They stole from me. Your brother stole from your daughter, and you did nothing. We didn't know. You didn't want to know. It was easy to let Jeffrey handle everything, while Lexi got whatever she wanted. Mum's voice was shaky. We thought Jeffrey was being fair. Fair, I laughed bitterly. When has anything in this family ever been fair to me? Zachary cleared his throat. Actually, I tried to tell you guys something was wrong. Everyone turned to look at him. Last Christmas, when Lexi showed up with that Cartier bracelet, I asked Jeffrey how she could afford it on her trust allowance. He told me to mind my own business. Zachary, you never said anything to us, Mum protested. Would you have listened? You never listen when it comes to Lexi. The room fell silent again. I could hear the city traffic 15 floors below, the hum of the air conditioning, the scratch of Matthew's pen on his legal pad. Here's what's going to happen, I said, pulling out another document. I'm invoking the integrity clause in Grandfather's will. Jeffrey's face went white. The what? The integrity clause, the one you conveniently forgot to mention. I began reading aloud. In the event of fraudulent or dishonest behaviour by any beneficiary, or the misuse of trust funds for purposes contrary to the grantor's intentions, said beneficiary shall forfeit their entire share of the trust. That's not... You can't... Jeffrey stammered. The forfeited amount shall be redistributed to the remaining honest beneficiaries, I continued. Lexi stood up so fast her chair fell over. What does that mean? I looked directly at her. My twin sister, my mirror image, the person who had taken everything from me. It means you lose it all, Lexi, every penny, and it all comes to me. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Jeffrey found his voice. You can't prove fraud. I smiled and pulled out my phone, setting it on the table. Actually, I can. I pressed play on Lexi's recorded confession from the bar. Her own voice filled the room. I just tell him what I need for business expenses, and he transfers it from the trust. No questions asked. Sometimes he asks for receipts, but honestly, I just make stuff up. Lexi's face crumpled. You recorded me? You recorded yourself. I was just there to listen. The recording kept playing, Lexi's voice echoing through the conference room like a confession at trial. Like, I'll say I spent $3,000 on a photo shoot, when really I bought shoes. He never checks. Jeffrey lunged for my phone, but Marcus was faster, grabbing his wrist. Don't, Marcus said quietly. You're in enough trouble already. Turn it off, bah! Lexi screamed. Turn it off right now! I let it play to the end, where her voice got even more damning. Jeffrey knows you don't need much. You're not building anything important. When it finished, the silence was suffocating. That recording is inadmissible, Jeffrey said, his lawyer instincts kicking in. She didn't consent to being recorded. Actually, she did, Marcus replied smoothly. This is a one-party consent state. Skylar was part of the conversation. It's entrapment. No, it's evidence. Evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud. Dad finally spoke up, his voice hollow. Jeffrey, please tell me this isn't true. Bryant, I can explain. Explain what? That you've been stealing from my daughter for 3 years? I wasn't stealing. I was managing the trust according to what I thought was best for both girls. Best for both girls? I slammed my hand on the table. How was giving Lexi nearly $1 million while I got scraps best for me? You're responsible. You don't need as much. That wasn't your decision to make. Mum was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Jeffrey, how could you do this to us? Charlotte, you have to understand. I understand perfectly, she sobbed. You destroyed our family. Lexi was pacing behind her chair, her face red and blotchy. This is insane. You can't take my money. It was never your money, I said. It was our grandfather's money, meant to be distributed equally. I earned it. I built a brand. I have followers. You built a lie funded by theft. I'm not a thief. I pulled out another document. Really? Because according to this credit card statement, you charged $15,000 in business meals to the trust last month. But according to your Instagram posts, you were home sick with the flu for 2 weeks. Lexi's mouth opened and closed like a fish. And this receipt for a marketing consultation that was actually a spa weekend in Napa. Those were legitimate. Stop lying, Zachary exploded, speaking louder than I'd ever heard him. Just stop. We all know what you did. Everyone stared at him. Our quiet little brother, finally finding his voice. I've watched this family tear itself apart for 3 years, he continued. I've watched Skylar work herself to death while Lexi bought cars and jewellery. I've watched Mum and Dad pretend everything was fine while their daughter was being robbed blind. Zachary, please, Mum started. No, I'm done being quiet. Lexi is a fraud, Jeffrey is a criminal, and you two are enablers. How dare you speak to your parents that way? Dad stood up, his face flushed. How dare you let this happen to Skylar? The room erupted. Everyone was shouting at once. Jeffrey was yelling about legal technicalities. Lexi was screaming about being betrayed. Mum was sobbing about her family falling apart. Dad was demanding respect. I sat in the middle of it all, watching my family destroy itself, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Marcus stood up and whistled sharply. The room fell silent. If I may, he said calmly, we have a legal situation here that needs to be addressed. He pulled out a thick folder. These are the papers to invoke the integrity clause. Based on the evidence we've presented, fraudulent expense reports, recorded admissions of deception, and systematic embezzlement, Lexi has violated the terms of the trust. You can't do this, Jeffrey said desperately. I'm the executor. I have final say. Actually, you don't? Marcus smiled. The integrity clause supersedes executor authority. And given your participation in the fraud, you're facing criminal charges. Criminal charges? Mum gasped. Embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty, conspiracy to commit fraud. The DA is going to love this case. Jeffrey's face went grey. Now wait, let's not be hasty. Hasty? I stood up again. 3 years of theft is hasty. Skylar, please, we can work this out, Dad pleaded. We're family. Family doesn't steal from each other. We can pay you back, Mum said through her tears. Jeffrey can transfer more money to your account. With what money? Lexi's already spent most of it. Lexi finally stopped pacing. I can sell things. The car, the jewellery. The car you can't afford the payments on? The jewellery you bought with stolen money? It's not stolen. Then explain this. I pulled out the final document. Jeffrey's own financial records. Your uncle has been taking a management fee of 15% on every fraudulent transaction. He's made over $100,000 helping you steal from me. The room went dead silent. Jeffrey's shoulders sagged. Skylar, just don't. I looked around the table at my family. My crying mother, my defeated father, my panicked sister, my furious uncle. Only Zachary met my eyes, and he nodded slightly. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Marcus is filing the paperwork to invoke the integrity clause today. Lexi's share of the trust, all of it, Transfers to me immediately. That's over $2 million, Matthew said quietly, speaking for the first time since the meeting started. That's what she would have inherited at 30, plus what she's already stolen, plus interest. Skylar, you can't... Lexi started. I can, and I will. Jeffrey, you're being reported to the state bar and the district attorney. Your law license is gone, and you'll probably face jail time. Jeffrey slumped in his chair like a deflated balloon. Mum, Dad, your precious daughter is about to be cut off completely. No more trust fund, no more family money, no more enabling her lifestyle. What about us? Dad asked quietly. What about you? You chose your side 3 years ago. I gathered my documents and stood up. Marcus followed suit. The paperwork will be filed by close of business today, I said. Lexi's accounts will be frozen pending the transfer. Jeffrey's access to the trust is revoked immediately. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Lexi? You might want to start looking for a real job. Instagram doesn't pay the bills. As I reached for the door handle, Zachary's voice stopped me. Skylar, wait. I turned back to my little brother. Did it feel worth it? I looked at my family one last time, broken, crying, destroyed by their own greed. Ask me tomorrow. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Skylar, please call me back. We need to talk. Mum, you've destroyed our family. Dad, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Lexi, the bank froze my accounts. How am I supposed to pay rent? Lexi again, please don't do this. I'm begging you. Jeffrey. I deleted them all and made coffee in my tiny kitchen. For the first time in 3 years, I wasn't calculating whether I could afford the good beans. Marcus called at 8 a.m. sharp. It's done, he said. The paperwork went through. As of this morning, you're the sole beneficiary of the remaining trust funds. How much? $2.7 million. I sat down hard on my couch. Jesus. That's after legal fees and penalties. Lexi's accounts are frozen. Jeffrey's been suspended pending investigation, and the DA wants to meet with you next week. What about my family? What about them? They made their choices. An hour later, someone was pounding on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Lexi, still in yesterday's clothes, her makeup smeared and her hair a mess. Open the door, Skylar. I know you're in there. I opened it, and she pushed past me into my apartment. You have to fix this, she said, spinning around to face me. The bank called. They froze everything. My credit cards, my checking account, everything. I know. I can't pay my rent, I can't buy groceries, I can't even get gas for my car. Welcome to my world. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. This isn't funny. You're right, it's not funny, it's justice. Justice? You're destroying my life. I'm giving you the life you gave me. Lexi started crying. The ugly kind of crying that comes with real desperation. Skylar, please. I'm your sister. Are you? Because sisters don't steal from each other. I didn't steal. Jeffrey said it was okay. Jeffrey said fraud was okay, and you went along with it because it benefited you. She collapsed onto my couch, sobbing. What am I supposed to do? I don't know how to live like this. Get a job, like normal people. Doing what? I don't have any skills. Then learn some. Take classes, work retail, wait tables. Figure it out. I can't work retail. Do you know who I am? Yeah. You're a broke 28-year-old with no job skills and a criminal record pending. She looked up at me, mascara streaking down her face. Criminal record? You committed fraud, Lexi. The DA is building a case. But I didn't know. You knew. The recording proves you knew. My phone rang. It was Dad. Don't answer it, Lexi begged. I answered anyway. Hi, Dad. Skylar, thank God. We need to talk. I'm listening. Not over the phone. Can you come to the house? Why? Jeffrey's here. He wants to make a deal. I looked at Lexi, still crying on my couch. What kind of deal? He'll return the management fees he took. $120,000. In exchange, you drop the criminal charges. And Lexi? She'll pay back what she can. Sell the car, the jewelry, everything. That won't even cover 10% of what she stole. It's a start. Please, Skylar, he's family. So am I hung up and looked at Lexi. Jeffrey wants to make a deal. What kind of deal? He'll give back his cut if I don't press charges. Hope flickered in her eyes. And me? You sell everything and pay back what you can. But that's not enough to cover. No, it's not. She was quiet for a long moment. What if I can't pay it all back? Then you'll owe me for the rest of your life. That's not fair, I laughed. Actually laughed. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I made mistakes, okay? But I don't deserve to lose everything. I made no mistakes, and I lost everything anyway. That's different. How? Because... She couldn't finish the sentence. Because you're the favourite. Because you're the pretty one, the charming one, the one who deserves nice things. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. It's what this whole family has always meant. My phone buzzed with a text from Zachary. Are you okay? I texted back, getting there. Can I see you later? He replied. Yes. Lexi was watching me text. Is that Zachary? Yeah. Is he mad at me too? What do you think? She started crying again. I've lost everyone. You lost everyone the day you decided to steal from me. I didn't mean for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? 100,000? 500,000? When was enough going to be enough? She didn't answer because we both knew the truth. It never would have been enough. I need to go, she said finally, standing up. Where? I don't know. Figure out how to survive, I guess. She walked to the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. After she left, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by silence. My phone kept buzzing with calls and texts from family members, but I ignored them all. At 6 p.m, Zachary knocked on my door. I let him in, and he looked around my tiny studio apartment. This is where you've been living? For 3 years. Well, Lexi had that penthouse. Yep. He sat down on my couch in the same spot where Lexi had been crying hours earlier. Mom and Dad are freaking out. I imagine they are. Jeffrey's talking about bankruptcy. Says the legal fees will ruin him. Good. Lexi's moving back in with them. She can't afford her apartment. Also good. Zachary was quiet for a moment. Do you feel better now? I thought about it. I feel vindicated. That's not the same thing. No, it's not. Are you going to take Jeffrey's deal? I don't know yet. What would grandfather want you to do? I looked at the framed photo of him on my bookshelf. He'd want justice. Is this justice, or is this revenge? What's the difference? Zachary met my eyes. Justice restores balance. Revenge destroys everything. I didn't have an answer for that. 3 weeks after the family meeting, I stood in Jeffrey's office again. This time, he looked like a broken man. Wrinkled shirt, unshaven face. The kind of desperation that comes from watching your entire life crumble. Thank you for coming, he said, his voice hoarse. Marcus sat beside me. Briefcase full of legal documents. Across the table, Jeffrey's own lawyer looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Let's get this over with, I said. Jeffrey slid a cashier's check across the table. $120,000, every penny I took in management fees. I picked up the check, studying the numbers. This doesn't cover the interest you earned on stolen money. It's everything I have left. The state bar froze my other accounts pending the ethics investigation. What about the criminal charges? Jeffrey's lawyer cleared his throat. My client is prepared to plead guilty to breach of fiduciary duty in exchange for probation and restitution. No jail time? He's a first-time offender. White-collar crime. The DA is willing to deal? I looked at Jeffrey. This man who'd helped raise me, who'd bounced me on his knee as a child, who'd systematically robbed me for 3 years. What about Lexi? She's cooperating fully. Sold the car, the jewellery, everything. The proceeds go to you. How much? $47,000. I did the math in my head. Even with Jeffrey's restitution and Lexi's liquidated assets, I was still owed over $500,000. That's not enough. It's all we have, Jeffrey said quietly. Then Lexi owes me the rest, with interest. She can't pay what she doesn't have. Then she'll work for it. Minimum wage, every paycheck garnished until the debt is paid. Jeffrey's face crumpled. That could take decades. Should have thought of that before you helped her steal from me. Marcus leaned forward. There is another option. Everyone looked at him. Skylar could forgive the remaining debt in exchange for a public apology and admission of guilt. Absolutely not, I said immediately. Hear me out. Jeffrey pleads guilty, loses his law license, pays restitution. Lexi makes a public statement admitting to fraud, apologizing, and warning others about the consequences of financial crimes. And then what? They walk away clean. They walk away broke and humiliated. Jeffrey will never practice law again. Lexi's reputation is destroyed. They'll both struggle financially for years. I thought about it. What kind of public statement? Social media, local news, whatever platform she used to build her brand, she uses to confess her crimes. Jeffrey looked desperate. Skylar, please. She's learned her lesson. Has she? Before he could answer, my phone rang. It was Fatima. I'm in a meeting, I answered. Turn on channel 7, now. I hung up and looked at Marcus. Can you pull up channel 7 on your phone? He found the live stream. The reporter was standing outside a familiar downtown building. Exclusive interview with social media influencer Lexi, who claims she's the victim of a family conspiracy. My blood went cold. There was Lexi, perfectly made up, standing in front of the news van. My sister has always been jealous of my success, she was saying to the camera. She's using legal technicalities to steal my inheritance because she can't stand that I built something beautiful while she stayed bitter and small. You've got to be kidding me, Marcus muttered. The reporter asked, What about the allegations of fraud? Complete lies. My uncle managed my trust fund legally and appropriately. My sister is trying to destroy my family because she's never been able to accept that some people are just more talented than others. I stood up so fast my chair fell over. She's doing a press conference? Jeffrey was staring at the phone screen in horror. Lexi, what are you doing? On screen, Lexi continued. I'm the victim here. I'm the one whose accounts were frozen without warning. I'm the one being persecuted for being successful. Turn it off, Jeffrey begged. But I couldn't look away. Keep watching. The reporter pressed harder. But there are recordings of you admitting to falsifying business expenses. Lexi's perfect composure cracked slightly. Those recordings were taken without my consent. My sister tricked me when I was drunk and emotional. So you deny making false claims about business expenses? The expenses were legitimate business costs. Just because my sister doesn't understand social media marketing doesn't make them fraudulent. What about the BMW purchased with trust funds? A necessary business investment. Image is everything in my industry. I looked at Jeffrey. She's lying on television. Lexi, stop, he whispered to the screen. But Lexi was on a roll now. My grandfather left that money to help us build meaningful lives. I built a brand with hundreds of thousands of followers. I created content that inspired people. My sister worked at a coffee shop. The reporter asked, Are you saying your sister doesn't deserve her share of the inheritance? I'm saying some people use opportunities to build something beautiful, and others use them to tear down what others have built. I turned to Jeffrey. The deal's off. Skylar, please. She just lied to the entire city on live television, called me jealous and bitter, claimed she's the victim. She's scared. She's not thinking clearly. She's thinking clearly enough to do her makeup and call a press conference. Marcus was already packing up his briefcase. I'll file the paperwork to reject the plea deal. Wait, Jeffrey said desperately. What if I can get her to retract the statement? Too late. It's already online. Probably going viral as we speak. My phone was buzzing with notifications. Text messages, missed calls, social media alerts. She made her choice, I said. Now she lives with the consequences. Jeffrey's lawyer stood up. My client withdraws his offer. Smart move, Marcus replied. Because we're going for the full amount now, plus punitive damages for defamation. As we left the office, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction or vindication. Relief. For 3 years, I'd wondered if I was crazy. If maybe I really was just jealous and bitter. If maybe Lexi really did deserve more because she was prettier, more charming, more likable. but watching her lie on television, watching her paint herself as the victim while calling me small and jealous, I finally understood the truth. This was who she'd always been. This was who they'd all always been. And I was done pretending otherwise. Marcus and I walked to the parking garage in comfortable silence. Finally, he spoke. "You know this means war, right? No more family dinners, no more Christmas mornings. They'll never forgive you." I thought about Zachary's question. Did it feel worth it? "Good," I said. "I don't want their forgiveness. I want my life back." That evening, I sat in my apartment with my laptop, typing. Aita for destroying my family over a trust fund. Here's the whole story. I posted it to Reddit and closed the laptop. Within an hour, I had hundreds of responses. NTA. They literally stole from you. Your sister sounds like a narcissist. You're a badass. Get your money. Family doesn't mean you have to accept abuse. I smiled and made myself dinner. Real food, not ramen. Tomorrow, I'd start looking for a new apartment. Maybe something with actual windows. My phone rang. Zachary. "I saw the news," he said. "And?" "Lexi's an idiot." "Yeah, she is. Are you okay?" I looked around my tiny studio, at the life I'd built from nothing, while my family tried to keep me small. I'm perfect. And for the first time in 3 years, I meant it.
The eviction notice felt like ice in my hands, its crisp edges cutting through the warmth of my birthday celebration. Just moments ago, I'd been smiling, surrounded by family, thinking this was going to be my best birthday yet. I'm Vivienne, and this is how my 30th birthday became the day my family betrayed me. Open it, dear. We're all so excited for you to see what's inside. My mother had urged, her eyes twinkling with what I now realize wasn't joy, but anxiety. The fancy envelope had seemed innocent enough, wrapped in silver paper with a delicate bow. The living room of my childhood home, the one I'd spent the last 5 years renovating, was filled with familiar faces. My cousin Salah sat perched on the armrest of the sofa, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. My brother Jace stood by the fireplace, hands shoved deep in his pockets, avoiding my gaze. "Come on, Viv, we haven't got all day," Selah had chirped, her voice honey-sweet. I remember thinking how odd it was that she'd dressed up so formally for a simple family gathering. As I tore open the envelope, birthday cake still sweet on my tongue, the legal document inside made my stomach drop. Notice of eviction stared back at me in bold, unforgiving letters. "What is this?" My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Mom? Dad?" My mother's face crumpled. "Sweetheart, we've been trying to find the right time to tell you." "Tell me what?" I stood up, the paper trembling in my hands. "That you're kicking me out of my own home? The home I've poured my savings into? My heart into?" Selah cleared her throat. "Vivienne, be reasonable. The house was never officially yours. The deed is still in your parents' names, and they've decided it's time for a change." "A change?" I spun to face her. "What do you know about this?" "I'm just trying to help the family make the best financial decision," she said, smoothing her designer skirt. "The market's hot right now, and—" "The market?" I laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. "This is my home, not some investment property." My brother finally spoke up. "Viv, maybe we should discuss this privately." "No." I slammed the paper down on the coffee table, making the cake plates rattle. "I want answers now. Mom, Dad, why are you doing this?" My father wouldn't meet my eyes. "There have been concerns about your ability to maintain the property properly. Selah has shown us some concerning documentation." "Documentation?" I felt like I was drowning. "What documentation? I've done nothing but improve this house. Look around you. New hardwood floors, updated kitchen, restored Victorian details. I did all of that. With questionable contractors," Selah interjected softly. "And there are the noise complaints from neighbors, the unauthorized modifications." "That's absolutely false." My voice cracked. I turned to my best friend Paisley, who stood frozen in the corner. "Paise, tell them." You've been here through all the renovations. Paisley stepped forward, her face fierce. Everything Vivian's done has been by the book. I've seen all the permits myself, but my family's expressions remained unchanged. My mother reached for my hand. Sweetie, you have 30 days to... I jerked away from her touch. 30 days? To leave my home? On my birthday? The room started spinning. How long have you been planning this? Selah stood up, straightening her blazer. I think we should all calm down and discuss this rationally. The decision's been made, Vivian. Fighting it will only make things harder. Looking at her face, that perfectly composed mask of false concern, something clicked. This wasn't just about the house. This was calculated, planned. The formal outfit, the documentation she'd mentioned, the way she'd positioned herself as the voice of reason. Get out, I whispered, then louder. Everyone get out. Vivian, my mother started. Now, they filed out one by one, leaving only Paisley behind. As the door closed behind my family, I collapsed onto the couch, the eviction notice mocking me from the coffee table. Paisley sat beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. This isn't over, Viv. Something's not right here, and we're going to figure it out. I wiped my eyes, anger replacing shock. You're right. Selah's behind this somehow. She's always wanted this house, ever since we were kids. I straightened up, a new determination flooding through me. And I'm going to prove it. Looking around at my beloved home, at the walls I'd painted, the fixtures I'd restored, the memories I'd built, I made a promise to myself. This wouldn't be the last birthday I'd celebrate here. Not if I had anything to say about it. The morning after my disastrous birthday, I sat at my kitchen counter, staring at my phone. 17 missed calls from Mom. 5 from Jace. None from Selah, of course. You need to eat something, Paisley said, sliding a plate of toast in front of me. She'd stayed the night, sleeping on my couch like we used to do in college. You can't fight this on an empty stomach. I pushed the plate away. I can't eat. I need to figure out what Selah's been telling my parents. My hands shook as I pulled up my mother's contact information. I'm calling her. Put it on speaker, Paisley said, settling beside me. Mom answered on the first ring. Vivian, thank goodness, we've been so worried. Save it. I cut her off. I want to know exactly what Selah's been saying about me. A heavy sigh crackled through the speaker. Honey, it's not just what Selah said. She showed us documentation of unauthorized construction, complaints from the neighborhood association. That's impossible. I slammed my hand on the counter. I have every permit, every approval right here in my files. Who specifically complained? Well, I don't have the actual complaints in front of me. Selah handled all of that. Of course she did. I laughed bitterly. And did you bother to verify any of it? To ask me about it before ambushing me on my birthday? Silence stretched between us. Mom? Selah said you deny everything. She finally replied, her voice small. She said you've been struggling financially, that you've been cutting corners. I want copies of everything, I demanded. Every document, every complaint, everything Selah showed you. Today. Vivian, please understand. No, you understand. That house is my life. I've put every penny I have into it, and I'm not leaving without a fight. I hung up before she could respond. Paisley squeezed my shoulder. That's my girl. Now what? Now we gather evidence. I grabbed my laptop. I need proof that Selah's lying. My phone buzzed. A text from Jace. Meet me at Carlo's Coffee in 30. Need to talk. 20 minutes later, I walked into Carlo's, spotting my brother in our usual corner booth. His face was drawn, guilty. You knew, I accused, sliding into the seat across from him. You knew what they were planning. Jace ran a hand through his hair. I found out yesterday morning. Mom and Dad swore me to secrecy. Said Selah had proof you were in trouble. And you believed her? Of course not. He leaned forward. Look, something weird is going on. Last week, I overheard Sela on the phone talking about property values and development opportunities in the neighborhood. My heart stopped. Development opportunities? Yeah. And get this, her fiancé Valentin, his family owns that new luxury condo complex downtown. The pieces started falling into place. Our street was one of the last historic areas in town, prime for development. My house sat on the largest lot. She wants to sell it to developers, I whispered. That's why she's doing this. There's more, Jace said. I did some digging. Sela's been meeting with the City Planning Commission. And guess who else attended those meetings? Mom and Dad? He nodded. They think they're protecting you from financial ruin, but Sela's playing them. She's convinced them selling is the only way to save you from yourself. My phone buzzed again. An email from Mom with attachments. I opened them, scanning quickly. These documents. I showed them to Jace. The letterhead is wrong. The permit numbers don't match my records. She forged them. Keep your voice down, Jace warned, glancing around. Sela's got friends everywhere. I don't care. This is proof she's lying. I stood up, energized. I need to show Mom and Dad. Wait. Jace grabbed my wrist. Sela's wedding to Valentine is in 2 weeks. Everyone will be there. Family, friends, business associates. If you're going to expose her, that's your chance to do it properly. I sank back into my seat, mind racing. 2 weeks to gather evidence, to prove she's trying to steal my home for her fiancé's development company. I'll help, Jace said firmly. So will Paisley, but we have to be smart about this. I nodded, determination replacing despair. Sela thinks she's won, that I'll just roll over and accept this, but she has no idea what I'm capable of. Walking home, I called Paisley. Hey, remember that friend of yours who works at the city planning office? We need to talk to her. Now. The game was on, and this time I was playing to win. The planning office smelled like stale coffee and printer ink. Paisley's friend Amanda pulled another file from the cabinet, adding it to the growing stack on her desk. These are all the development proposals for your neighborhood from the past 6 months, she said, keeping her voice low despite the empty office. Including 3 from Valrum Development Group. Valentine's company. I muttered, flipping through the pages. My hands froze on a familiar sketch. This is my house. Paisley leaned over my shoulder. Look at the date. This was filed 2 months ago. Before the eviction notice, I said, anger building. Before any of this started. Amanda glanced nervously at the door. There's something else? These signatures here? She pointed to the bottom of the document. Your parents' names, authorizing the preliminary survey. My stomach lurched. They've been planning this for months. Viv. Paisley grabbed my arm, pointing to another name. Look who notarized it. The name jumped off the page. Marcus Quinn, Sela's father. That sneaky little... I stopped as footsteps echoed in the hallway. Amanda quickly gathered the files, shoving them back into the cabinet. I've got copies at my desk, she whispered. I'll email them to you tonight. We barely made it out before someone entered the office. In the parking lot, I leaned against my car, trying to steady my breathing. We need to talk to Valentin, Paisley said. Maybe he doesn't know what Sela's doing. He has to know. His company filed the proposals. My phone rang. Jace. Sis, you need to get to Mom and Dad's. Now. What's wrong? Sela's here with some contractor talking about renovation plans. They're acting like they already own the place. I was already in my car. I'm coming. 15 minutes later, I stormed through my parents' front door. Sela's voice drifted from the kitchen, smooth as honey. The whole street will benefit from the modernization. Property values will soar. Over my dead body, I announced, making them all jump. Sela recovered first, her smile never wavering. Vivian, we were just discussing the neighborhood's future. You mean your future? Your fiancé's future? I slapped the development proposals on the kitchen table. When were you going to tell everyone about Valrum's plans? My mother's face paled. What is she talking about, Sela? Don't listen to her, Sela said quickly. She's just upset about the eviction. Show them, I demanded. Show them the real reason you want my house. The contractor cleared his throat awkwardly. I should go. Stay, Sela commanded. Vivian's just causing drama, as usual. Always so emotional about everything. Emotional? I laughed. You forged documents. You lied to my parents. You're trying to steal my home for your fiancé's development project. That's enough, my father shouted. Sela's been nothing but helpful. Helpful? I grabbed the proposals, throwing them in front of him. Look at the dates. Look at the signatures. She's been planning this for months. My mother picked up the papers with trembling hands. These aren't the documents you showed us, Sela. Because they're fake, Sela snapped. Vivian's desperate. She'll say anything. I have copies from the city planning office. I cut in. Official copies. Want to see them? For the first time, Sela's composure cracked. You went through official records? And I found everything. The fake complaints, the forged permits, the development plans. It's all there. The contractor stood up. Ms. Shelton, if there's some kind of legal issue... There's no issue, she said through gritted teeth. Everything's fine. My phone buzzed. An email from Amanda with the promised documents. I held up my phone triumphantly. Want to see the proof? It's right here. Sela's face hardened. You have no idea what you're doing, Vivian. No idea who you're dealing with. No, you have no idea who you're dealing with. I turned to my parents. Check your emails. I'm sending you everything. Every lie, every manipulation, every secret meeting with Valram Development. Sela? My mother's voice was small. Is this true? But Sela was already heading for the door, the contractor trailing behind her. At the threshold, she turned back. This isn't over, Vivian. Not by a long shot. After she left, silence filled the kitchen. My father stared at the documents, his face ashen. We should have asked you, he finally said. Should have verified. Yes, you should have. I gathered the papers. But now you know the truth. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I left them there, surrounded by evidence of their own misplaced trust. In my car, I called Paisley. Phase 1 complete, I said. Now we go after Valentin. Finding Valentin proved easier than I expected. He was at his usual lunch spot, a trendy cafe downtown with his sister Leah. I smoothed my blazer and approached their table, Paisley close behind me. Mind if we join you? I asked, not waiting for an answer before sliding into the empty chair. Valentin's fork clattered against his plate. Vivian, what are you doing here? Funny story. I was just at the city planning office looking at some very interesting documents about my house. Leah's eyes narrowed. Your house? The Victorian that Sela mentioned? The same one your brother's company plans to demolish, I said, watching Valentin's face carefully. Demolish? Leah turned to her brother. Val, what is she talking about? Valentin dabbed his mouth with a napkin. This isn't the place. It's exactly the place, I interrupted, pulling out the development proposals. Your company filed these 2 months ago. Before the eviction notice, before all of Sela's lies. Leah snatched the papers, her face darkening as she read. You're planning to tear down the entire street? Replace it with condos? It's a sound business decision, Valentin defended. The neighborhood's undervalued. It's my home, I cut in. And Sela's been manipulating my family to get it. She said your parents were willing sellers, Valentin said, but I caught the uncertainty in his voice. Paisley leaned forward. They were willing because Sela showed them forged documents claiming Vivian was mismanaging the property. She lied to everyone. Leah pushed her plate away, disgust evident. Is this why you're rushing the wedding? To close this deal? The timing is convenient, he admitted. Convenient? I laughed bitterly. You're destroying people's homes, their histories. Progress requires sacrifice. Valentine started, but Leah cut him off. No, this requires deception, and I won't be part of it. She stood up, gathering her things. Count me out of the wedding party. Leah, wait. Valentine called after his sister, but she was already storming out. I smiled sweetly. Trouble in paradise? You have no right to interfere in my business dealings, he hissed, and you have no right to my house. I stood up. By the way, I've sent copies of everything to the City Ethics Board. They're very interested in how Valram obtained those preliminary approvals. The color drained from his face. You're bluffing. Try me. I dropped a business card on the table. That's my lawyer's number. Use it. Outside, Leah was waiting by my car. I want to help. Why should I trust you? Because I've watched Sela manipulate my brother for months. Because I've seen the way she operates. Leah's eyes flashed. And because I have access to Valram's internal files. Paisley grabbed my arm. Viv, this could be huge. What's in it for you? I asked Leah. Justice, and the satisfaction of watching Sela's perfect plan implode. She pulled out her phone. Starting with these emails between her and my brother, dating back 6 months, I scanned the messages, my heart racing. There it was. Explicit discussion of their scheme to pressure my parents, to force the sale, to fast-track the development. This is exactly what we need. Paisley breathed. There's more, Leah said. Board meetings, private conversations, financial arrangements. I can get you everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Jace. Mom and Dad want to talk. They've seen the evidence. Looks like the tide is turning, I told Leah. But we need to move fast. The wedding's in 10 days. Perfect timing for everything to fall apart. She smiled grimly. I'll send you what I have tonight. As Leah walked away, Paisley turned to me. Are you sure about this? Using her? She's using us too, I pointed out. But right now we want the same thing. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. The message made my blood run cold. Back off now or you'll regret it. Some things are worth more than a house. S. Paisley read over my shoulder. She's threatening you. She's desperate, I corrected, saving the message as evidence. And desperate people make mistakes. I headed toward my car, determination fueling every step. Let's go see my parents. It's time to show them exactly who they've been protecting. The pieces were falling into place, faster than I'd hoped. But Sela's threat lingered in my mind, a warning that this fight was far from over. And something told me the worst was yet to come. I woke to the sound of breaking glass. Jumping out of bed, I rushed downstairs to find my front window shattered, a brick lying among the shards. A note was wrapped around it. Final warning. My hands shook as I called the police. While waiting, I texted Paisley and Jace. They arrived before the officers did. This has gone too far, Jace said, examining the brick. You need to be careful, Viv. I'm not backing down now. I handed the note to the police officer who was taking my statement. This is connected to a larger situation. I have documentation. Just file a restraining order, the officer suggested, looking bored. Not much we can do without proof of who threw it. After they left, Paisley helped me board up the window. At least we have Leah's evidence now. Those emails she sent last night are devastating. Speaking of which, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from my mother. I need to go see them. They've had time to process everything. I'm coming with you, Jace insisted. 20 minutes later, we sat in our parents' living room. Mom's eyes were red from crying. We've been such fools, she whispered. All those documents Salah showed us, we wanted to believe she was helping. The development plans, Dad added, his voice heavy. We had no idea they planned to demolish the whole street. We thought they were just renovating. Sela knew exactly what buttons to push, I said. She played on your concerns about me, made you think I was in trouble. She's been manipulating this family for years. Jace added. Remember when she convinced you to give her grandma's jewelry instead of Viv? Mom's face crumpled. She said you didn't want it, that you thought it was old-fashioned. I never said that. I swallowed hard. Just like I never made unauthorized changes to the house. Never had complaints from neighbors. We know that now, Dad said. We've talked to everyone on the street. No one ever complained. In fact, they all love what you've done with the place. My phone buzzed. Leah. Emergency. Meet me at Riverside Park. Now. I have to go. I stood up. But first, are you with me on this? Really with me? Mom squared her shoulders. We'll do whatever it takes to make this right. At the park, Leah paced near the fountain, her face pale. Salah knows I helped you. She's threatening to reveal something about my past to the board of Valram. What something? A mistake I made years ago. It could ruin my career. She ran her hands through her hair. I can't risk it. Hey, I grabbed her shoulders. Whatever it is, it can't be worse than what she's doing now. You don't understand. My whole life could fall apart. Then let it. The words came out harder than I intended. Sometimes you have to lose everything to do the right thing. Leah's eyes filled with tears. Easy for you to say. You're just fighting for a house. No, I'm fighting for justice, for truth. For every person Selah has ever manipulated or hurt. I softened my tone. Including you. She wiped her eyes. There's something else. I overheard Valentine on the phone. They're moving up the timeline. They want to close the deal right after the wedding. That's in a week. Less. The rehearsal dinner is in 3 days. Leah straightened up. You're right. I can't let her win. Not again. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Hope you enjoyed the brick. Next time it won't be your window. S. I showed Leah the message. Her face hardened. She's really losing it. Good, I said. The more desperate she gets, the more mistakes she'll make. The rehearsal dinner, Leah said suddenly. All the investors will be there. The board members, the family. Perfect time to expose everything. But Selah will be expecting something. She'll be prepared. I smiled grimly. Then we'll have to be better prepared. I need every document, every email, every piece of evidence you can get. And I need them tonight. Leah nodded. I'll have them to you in 2 hours. As she walked away, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Paisley. Your mom just called. Salah's at their house. She's crying, saying you're trying to ruin her life. Your parents aren't buying it, but she's putting on quite a show. I texted back. Let her perform. In 3 days, she'll have a real reason to cry. The stakes were higher now, the threats more serious. But with each desperate move Selah made, she only proved how close we were to bringing her down. The countdown to the rehearsal dinner had begun. The day before the rehearsal dinner, I sat in my lawyer's office, surrounded by stacks of evidence. Sarah, my attorney, flipped through the documents with growing interest. These emails between Selah and Valram are damning, she said. And the forged documents? That's criminal. But is it enough? I asked. To stop the development? Absolutely. To press charges? Probably. She leaned forward. But are you sure you want to do this at the rehearsal dinner? It's perfect timing. All the investors will be there, plus the entire family. My phone buzzed. Another threat from Selah. Last chance to back down. Remember, I know about Miami. Sarah caught my expression. What's wrong? She's trying to blackmail me now. I showed her the text. But the Miami thing, it's nothing. Just a spring break mistake from college that she thinks she can use against me. Document everything, Sarah advised, handing me a USB drive. I've organized all the evidence here, including the police report about the brick. Are you sure you don't want private security? I'll be fine. Jason Paisley will be with me tomorrow night. Outside the office, I found Leah waiting in her car. Get in. There's something you need to see. She drove us to Valram's office building, parking in the underground garage. Valentine and Selah are in a board meeting upstairs, But look at this. She pulled out her tablet, showing me security footage from earlier that day. Selah was arguing with someone in the garage. Her father. "Turn up the volume," I said. "I can't keep covering for you," her father was saying. "The notary stamps, the forged documents, it's too much risk." "Daddy, please, just one more day. After the rehearsal dinner, it won't matter anymore." "What's happening after the rehearsal dinner?" I asked Leah. "I don't know, but they've booked a private room at the restaurant. Invitation only, after the main event." My phone rang. Paisley. "Viv, you need to get home now. Someone's been in your house. I broke every speed limit getting back." Paisley and Jace were waiting outside. Inside, my breath caught. Every renovation I'd done, every wall I'd painted, every fixture I'd restored, had been photographed and marked with bright red X's. "They're documenting everything they plan to destroy," Jace said quietly. Paisley picked up a business card left on the counter. "Look who's handling the demolition." The company name made my blood boil. It belonged to Selah's uncle. "They're keeping it all in the family," I said bitterly. "How did they even get in?" "Your mom called," Jace said. "Selah asked to borrow her spare key this morning. Said she needed to measure for wedding decorations." "And Mom gave it to her?" "No. But when she refused, Selah broke down crying, saying you were trying to ruin her special day. Mom felt guilty and admitted where she keeps the spare." I sank onto the stairs, looking at the red X's everywhere. This was my grandmother's house. I learned to walk on these floors. Had my first kiss in that bay window. "And you're not going to lose it," Paisley said firmly. "Tomorrow night, we end this." My phone buzzed with a text from Leah. "Emergency. Selah's changed the seating arrangements. You're not invited to the private meeting anymore." "Doesn't matter," I texted back. "We'll do it during the main dinner. More witnesses that way." I spent the rest of the day with Sarah, finalizing our strategy. By nightfall, everything was ready. Lying in bed that night, I heard footsteps on my porch. Grabbing my phone to call the police, I crept to the window. But it was just my mother, leaving something by the door. I opened it to find a small package with a note. "Your grandmother wanted you to have this. I should have given it to you years ago. Love, Mom." Inside was my grandmother's antique locket, the one Selah had claimed I didn't want. Opening it, I found a tiny photograph of my grandmother standing proudly in front of the house, the day she bought it. My phone lit up with one final threat from Selah. "Hope you're ready for tomorrow." Because I am. I touched the locket, then looked at the red X's marking my walls. "Bring it on," I whispered. Tomorrow, everything would change. Either I'd save my home and expose Selah's schemes, or I'd lose everything I'd fought for. But looking at my grandmother's proud smile in that old photograph, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going down without a fight. The rehearsal dinner couldn't come soon enough. The rehearsal dinner buzzed with nervous energy. Selah held court at the main table, resplendent in white, while Valentine worked the room, charming investors. I sat between Paisley and Jace, my grandmother's locket cool against my skin, waiting for the right moment. "Look who just arrived," Paisley whispered. Sarah, my lawyer, walked in with Leah, right on schedule. Selah's smile flickered for just a moment before she recovered, rising to greet them. "Leah, darling, I was worried you wouldn't make it after our disagreement." "Wouldn't miss it," Leah said coldly, then turned to the assembled guests. "Have you met Sarah? She's a fascinating person. Specializes in real estate fraud." The room quieted slightly. Valentin appeared at Selah's side, his hand tight on her arm. "Perhaps we should start the toasts," he suggested. "Wonderful idea." I stood up, raising my glass. "I'd like to go first." Selah's face drained of color. "That's not on the program." "Oh, but I insist." I moved to the center of the room. After all, what kind of cousin would I be if I didn't congratulate you on your achievements? The room fell silent. All eyes on me. "Vivian," my mother warned softly. "It's okay, Mom. I'm just going to share some interesting documents with everyone." I nodded to Sarah, who began distributing folders to the investors. Consider it my wedding gift. Security, Selah called out, but Leah was already blocking the door. Let's start with these emails, I continued, my voice carrying across the stunned room. Detailed plans to forge documents, manipulate my family, and steal my home for Valrum's development project. Valentine stepped forward. These are private business matters. Fraud is never private, Sarah interjected. Neither is forgery, which brings us to Exhibit B, the falsified complaints and permits, complete with unauthorized notary stamps from Selah's father. Selah's father stood up, face red. Now wait just a minute. The ethics board is very interested in your involvement, Sarah added smoothly. They'll be in touch. You're ruining everything, Selah shrieked, lunging for the folders. But Jace was faster, already passing copies to the board members. Like you tried to ruin my life? I asked. The threats? The brick through my window? The break-in? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Valentine's sister stood up. The police have been notified, she announced. About everything. Val, do something, Selah pleaded. But Valentine was busy reading the documents, his face growing darker with each page. You told me her family agreed to sell, that everything was legal. It was just business, Selah protested. A simple property acquisition. Simple? I pulled out my phone, playing the security footage Leah had given me. Selah's voice filled the room. After the rehearsal dinner, it won't matter anymore. What were you planning? Valentine demanded. What happens after dinner? Selah's silence was damning. Her father broke it. The demolition crew is scheduled for midnight, he admitted. We thought if the house was already down, you were going to destroy my home? Tonight? My voice cracked. While everyone was celebrating your wedding? The room erupted in chaos. Investors stormed out. Board members huddled in corners. Family members argued loudly. Through it all, Selah stood frozen, her perfect world crumbling. The development deal is off, Valentine announced. And so is the wedding. But the deposits? The contracts? Selah's voice was small. Are void due to fraud, Sarah supplied helpfully, as is the eviction notice. My mother approached Selah slowly. How could you do this? To family? Because she never cared about family, I said quietly. Only power, control, getting what she wants no matter who she hurts. Selah's composure finally broke. You think you've won? You've ruined everything I worked for. No, I touched my grandmother's locket. You did that yourself. Every lie, every scheme, every betrayal. That was all you. The police arrived then, asking questions, taking statements. I watched as Selah's carefully constructed facade crumbled completely. The house is yours, my father said, hugging me tight. It always was. We forgot what family really means. Later, standing outside the restaurant, Paisley squeezed my hand. How does it feel? I looked at the night sky, thinking of my grandmother's photograph. Like justice, like home. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Leah. Board meeting tomorrow. Valram's pulling out of all neighborhood developments. You did it. Justice indeed. But watching Selah being escorted to a police car, mascara streaking her cheeks, I felt no joy in her destruction. Only relief that my home, my family's legacy was safe at last. The morning sun streamed through my newly repaired window as I sipped coffee on my front porch. The newspaper headline caught my eye. Valram Development faces investigation, CEO steps down. Below it, a smaller headline. Local woman charged with fraud, criminal conspiracy. My phone rang. Leah. Have you seen the news? Just reading it now. How are you holding up? Better than expected. The board appointed me interim CEO. Turns out exposing corruption has its perks. A car pulled into my driveway. My parents. Mom carried a large box while Dad lugged what looked like photo albums. I'll call you back, I told Leah. Mom set the box down carefully. We've been going through the attic, found some things that belong here. Inside were pieces of my grandmother's life. Her journals, recipes, old letters. Dad opened one of the albums, pointing to a yellowed photograph. That's her. The day she bought this house. Said it was the proudest moment of her life. Until you were born, Mom added softly. She always wanted you to have it. The screen door creaked open as Paisley emerged with more coffee. Look who just pulled up. A police car parked across the street. Officer Martinez approached, holding a document. Ms. Harding, we've recovered some items from Sella's office, things she took from your house. He handed me a folder. Also thought you should know. She's agreed to a plea deal. Full confession. Thank you, I said, taking the folder. Inside were old photographs she'd stolen years ago, claiming they'd been lost. The DA wants to know if you'll testify about the harassment, Officer Martinez added. I looked at my repaired window, remembering the brick, the threats, the fear. Yes, I will. He nodded and left. Mom touched one of the recovered photographs. Your 5th birthday, she said. Selah was so jealous of your party, she threw cake at you. We should have seen the signs back then. We all missed the signs, I said. But we can't change the past. Jace's truck rumbled up the street, Valentine surprisingly in the passenger seat. They carried construction supplies. Before you say anything, Jace called out. He volunteered. Valentine set down a paint can. I owe you. We all do. Let me help restore what we almost destroyed. I studied him for a moment, then nodded. Start with the back porch. It needs new railings. The day unfolded like a healing breath. While Jace and Valentine worked on repairs, Mom and I sorted through grandmother's belongings. Paisley organized a neighborhood potluck on the lawn. Even Leah stopped by, bringing corporate documents showing Valrum's new commitment to historic preservation. The board wants to establish a fund, she explained, to help homeowners restore historic properties instead of demolishing them. Karma works in mysterious ways, Paisley mused. As evening approached, neighbors gathered on my lawn, sharing food and stories. Mrs. Rodriguez from next door brought her famous empanadas. Your grandmother loved these, she told me. She hosted dinners like this all the time. The house was always full of people, full of life. I touched my locket, thinking of the photograph inside. Maybe it's time to restart that tradition. Dad raised his glass. To new beginnings. And old foundations, Mom added. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Plea deal finalized. Selah's serving time. The house is officially safe. Looking around at my gathered family, friends, and neighbors, I realized something. This house wasn't just walls and windows, not just a property to be saved. It was a home, alive with memories and possibilities. You know, Paisley said, your birthday's coming up again. No surprise parties this time. I laughed. No, she agreed. But maybe a housewarming to celebrate properly? I watched Jace and Valentine arguing good-naturedly about porch designs, Mom sharing grandmother's recipes with neighbors, Dad telling stories about the house's history to enthralled listeners. I'd like that, I said. A fresh start. The evening wind carried the scent of blooming jasmine, grandmother's favorite. She'd planted it along the fence years ago, and like the house itself, it had endured. To fresh starts, I raised my glass, and to coming home. The gathered crowd echoed the toast, their voices mixing with crickets and distant wind chimes. This was what Selah never understood, what no development plan could capture. The heart of a home, beating strong through generations. I sat on my porch steps, surrounded by love and laughter, knowing that while the battle for my house was over, the story of this home was just beginning. And this time, every page would be filled with joy, not fear. With welcome, not walls. With family, the kind you're born to and the kind you choose. This was my legacy, my victory, my peace. And it was beautiful.
The worst part about betrayal is that it never comes from your enemies. I learned this lesson on a rainy Tuesday afternoon when I returned from my business trip to find my wedding dress missing and my sister's perfume lingering in my apartment. I'm Ellie, and until that moment, I thought I had everything figured out. Successful career? Check. Perfect fiancé? Check. Close relationship with my only sister? Double check. But life has a way of shattering your illusions all at once. Christine, something's wrong, I said into my phone, pacing my walk-in closet where my wedding dress should have been. The dress is gone, and Amelia's been here. I can smell her signature vanilla perfume everywhere. Ellie, sit down. Christine's voice was unnaturally steady. There's something you need to know. My stomach dropped. Christine never used that tone unless something was terribly wrong. I sank onto my bed, still in my travel clothes. Amelia and Axel got married yesterday, in your dress. The words hit me like a physical blow. I gripped my phone tighter, knuckles turning white. What? It's all over social media. I tried calling you, but my flight was delayed, I whispered. My phone was dead. The pieces started falling into place. Axel's recent distance, Amelia's excessive interest in my wedding plans, the way they both encouraged me to take this business trip despite the tight timeline before the wedding. I'm coming over, Christine declared. No, I said quickly, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. I need to handle this myself. After hanging up, I opened Instagram. There they were, dozens of photos of my sister in my dress, kissing my fiancé. My dress. My fiancé. My sister. The caption under Amelia's post read, "When you know it's meant to be. Sorry, sis. Sometimes love can't wait." I laughed. Actually laughed. Because while they were playing their little game, they had no idea about the cards I held. My phone buzzed with a text from Bruno, my mentor. Deals sealed. You now own controlling interest in Harris Technologies. Announcement goes public next week. Congratulations. Axel's family company. The one he'd been trying to save for the past year. The one I'd just acquired through a series of shell companies and careful maneuvering. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Layla, Amelia's best friend, standing there with an apologetic look. Ellie, I'm so sorry. I tried to stop her, but... Come in, Layla, I said calmly. Tell me everything. She settled on my couch, wringing her hands. It was planned for weeks. Amelia said you didn't deserve Axel, that you were too focused on your career. She said he came to her, that they fell in love. I listened, noting every detail, every player in this betrayal. Layla's story spilled out. How Amelia had copied my apartment key, how she'd convinced Axel that I was cheating on him with a business partner, how they'd planned their wedding to coincide with my business trip. They're having a celebration dinner tonight at LeBlanc, Layla finished. I thought you should know. After she left, I stood at my window, watching the rain. My phone buzzed again. Axel calling. I declined it, then opened my laptop to check my emails. The acquisition paperwork was there, waiting for my final signature. My finger hovered over the mouse. One click, and I'd own everything Axel's family had built over 3 generations. One click, and I could destroy them both. The rain intensified outside, matching the storm brewing inside me. Another text came through, this time from Amelia. Please don't hate me. We need to talk. I closed my eyes, remembering all the times I'd protected her, supported her, loved her. How many times had I picked up the pieces of her mistakes? How many times had I put her first? Opening my eyes, I clicked Sign on the acquisition documents. Then, I opened my closet, pulled out my best dress, not white, but blood red, and began to get ready. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they'd forgotten one crucial detail about me. I never played to participate. I played to win. As I applied my lipstick, my phone lit up with a text from Bruno. Confirmation received. Congratulations on your new company, CEO. I smiled at my reflection. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was more than happy to assist. You're scary when you're calm like this, Christine said, watching me pour us both a glass of wine in my kitchen. I expected tears, screaming, maybe some plate throwing. But this? She gestured at my composed demeanor. This is terrifying. What's terrifying is how predictable they both are. I replied, sliding her glass across the counter. Did you know Axel's been trying to secure additional funding for months? His family's company is hemorrhaging money. Christine's eyes widened. And you bought it? Through shell companies and private equity firms. Bruno helped structure it so neither of them would notice. I took a sip of wine. Axel was so busy planning his little betrayal, he didn't even notice who was buying up shares. Jesus, Ellie! Christine leaned forward. What are you planning? The doorbell interrupted us. Through the peephole, I saw Bruno's familiar silhouette. I opened the door to find him holding a thick manila envelope. The final paperwork, he said, stepping inside. Everything's in order, but we need to discuss timing. We gathered around my dining table, spreading documents across its surface. Bruno pointed to several key sections, while Christine watched, fascinated. The announcement goes public next week, Bruno explained. Once it does, the board will be restructured. Axel's position as CEO becomes redundant. He doesn't know? Christine asked. He's been too busy stealing my sister and my dress to notice his company slipping through his fingers, I said, signing another document. My phone buzzed. Another call from Axel. 7th one today. You should answer it, Bruno suggested. Keep him off balance. I hit accept. Hello, Axel. Ellie, thank God. We need to talk. His voice was strained. What happened? It's not what you think. Oh? So you didn't marry my sister in my wedding dress? Silence. That's what I thought. I kept my voice light, pleasant. Congratulations, by the way. I hope you both got everything you wanted. Ellie, please. I have to go. I'm in the middle of something important. Business, you know how it is. I hung up before he could respond. Christine whistled low. Ice cold. Speaking of business, Bruno interjected, we need to discuss the gala next week. The acquisition announcement will be made there. All major shareholders are expected to attend. Including Axel and his family, I noted, a plan forming. Send them all invitations. Make it impossible to refuse. Ellie, Christine touched my arm. Are you sure about this? Revenge might feel good now, but this isn't just revenge, I interrupted. This is business. Axel's family company is failing because of his mismanagement. I'm saving it. And if I happen to destroy his reputation in the process, well, I shrugged. Karma! My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Amelia. Please answer my calls. I can explain everything. Your sister's persistent, Bruno observed. She's scared, I corrected. She knows me well enough to know I don't get mad. I get even. Christine picked up one of the documents. What about the employees? The people who depend on Harris Technologies for their livelihoods? They'll be protected. I've already planned a restructuring that preserves most positions. I turned to Bruno. Speaking of which, how's the PR strategy coming along? Ready to go. We're positioning this as a rescue operation. Young, innovative CEO saves struggling company. He smiled. The press will love it. Another text from Axel. Just saw the gala invitation. We need to talk before then, please. I showed it to Bruno, who chuckled. He's starting to sweat. Good. What's your next move? Christine asked. I walked to my window, looking out at the city lights. Tomorrow, I'm going shopping for a gala dress, something unforgettable. Then I'm going to show up at their celebration dinner tonight at LeBlanc. Ellie, Christine started. Don't worry, I assured her. I won't make a scene. I'll just congratulate the happy couple. Maybe mention how excited I am about next week's business announcement. Bruno gathered the documents, sliding them back into the envelope. Remember, discretion is crucial until the announcement. Trust me, I said, checking my reflection in the mirror. I know exactly what I'm doing. As they left, Christine hugged me tightly. Just don't lose yourself in this, okay? I watched them leave, then checked my phone one last time. A new text from Amelia. Saw you're attending the gala. What are you planning? I smiled, typing back. Just supporting my sister's new family. Isn't that what sisters do? Slipping my phone into my purse, I grabbed my keys. LeBlanc was waiting, and I had a dinner to crash. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold, it's served with a smile and perfect timing. LeBlanc was exactly as pretentious as I remembered. All crystal chandeliers and white tablecloths. I spotted them immediately. Amelia in a designer dress that probably cost more than her monthly salary, Axel looking uncomfortable in his tailored suit. They were surrounded by friends, champagne flowing freely. "Table for one," I told the maitre d', loud enough to carry. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. Amelia's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. "Ah, Ellie!" she gasped, standing up so quickly her chair scraped against the floor. "What are you—" "Don't let me interrupt," I smiled, accepting the menu from the hovering waiter. "I just came for the lamb. It's excellent here, isn't it, Axel? We used to order it every anniversary." Axel's face had lost all color. "Ellie, please." "Oh God, I'm so sorry." I covered my mouth in mock embarrassment. "It's not anniversary anymore, is it? My mistake. Congratulations, by the way. The photos were beautiful. My dress looked lovely on you, Amelia." The silence at their table was deafening. Their friends shifted uncomfortably, some avoiding eye contact, others openly staring. "You should join us," one of Axel's business associates called out, clearly trying to diffuse the tension. "We're celebrating." "That's so kind," I replied, settling into my table within perfect earshot of theirs. "But I wouldn't want to impose. Besides, I have some work to review before next week's big announcement." Axel's head snapped up. "What announcement?" "Oh, you'll find out soon enough. The gala invitation went out today, didn't it? I'm sure it'll be a night to remember." A waiter appeared with a bottle of champagne. "Compliments of Mr. Pearson," he said, pouring me a glass. I raised it in Axel's direction. "To new beginnings." Amelia stood up abruptly. "We need to talk, now." She grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the ladies' room. Inside the opulent bathroom, she spun to face me. "What are you doing?" "Having dinner," I said, checking my lipstick in the mirror. "The lamb really is excellent here." "Stop it!" Her voice cracked. "Stop acting like this doesn't hurt you. I know you, Ellie. You're planning something." I turned to face her. "You're right. You do know me, so you know exactly what happens to people who betray me." "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she whispered. "We fell in love. We couldn't help it. Couldn't help stealing my dress? Couldn't help waiting until I was out of town?" I laughed softly. "Please, Amelia, at least have the decency to be honest about your choices." The bathroom door opened. A woman walked in, took one look at us, and quickly walked back out. "What's this announcement everyone's talking about?" Amelia demanded. "You'll find out at the gala. Bring your best smile. There will be photographers." Her face crumpled. "Why are you being like this? I'm your sister." "Exactly. You were my sister, which made your betrayal so much worse." A sharp knock interrupted us. "Amelia?" Axel's voice called. "Is everything okay?" I opened the door, coming face to face with him. "Everything's fine. We're just having a little sister chat. By the way, how's the company doing, Axel? I heard there were some concerning quarterly reports." He paled again. "How did you—" "I always did pay more attention to business than you gave me credit for." I patted his cheek as I passed. "See you at the gala." Back at my table, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk about Axel Harris. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m., Capital Coffee." I was about to delete it when another text came through. "I have information you'll want to hear before the gala. Ask for Cameron." Across the restaurant, I could see Axel and Amelia in heated discussion, their celebration thoroughly disrupted. Their friends were making excuses, leaving in pairs. My lamb arrived, perfectly cooked. As I ate, I noticed Layla watching me from their table, her expression a mix of fear and admiration. "More champagne, miss?" the waiter asked. "No, thank you. But please send a bottle to my sister's table, with my congratulations." I finished my meal slowly, savoring each bite as their party disintegrated around them. As I stood to leave, I dropped a business card on their table. "You might need this," I told Axel. "It's my lawyer's number, for when you figure out what's coming." Outside, the night air was cool against my skin. My phone buzzed again. The unknown number. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Don't be late. You'll want to hear this. I saved the number under Cameron and flagged down a taxi. The night had gone perfectly, but tomorrow promised to be even more interesting. After all, in business and revenge, information is everything. Capital Coffee was busy when I arrived at 9:55 a.m. A man in a charcoal suit waved from a corner table. Athletic build, sharp features. Definitely not what I was expecting. "You must be Cameron," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. "And you're the woman who's about to take down Axel Harris." He pushed a coffee toward me. "Already ordered. Black, 2 sugars. Your usual according to the barista." "Should I be concerned you know my coffee order?" I make it my business to know things." He slid a folder across the table. "Like how Axel's been embezzling from his family's company for the past year." I opened the folder, scanning documents filled with transaction records and bank statements. "How did you get these?" "I'm the external auditor, hired by the board last month. Found some concerning patterns." Cameron leaned forward. "But here's what's interesting. The money isn't in his accounts. It's in your sister's." My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. "What?" "Axel's been funneling company funds into accounts under Amelia's name. She probably doesn't even know they exist." He tapped the documents. "Your acquisition isn't just going to expose his mismanagement, it's going to uncover fraud." "Why are you showing me this?" "Because Axel did the same thing to my sister 3 years ago. Different company, same scheme. She lost everything when it came crashing down." His jaw tightened. "He's got a pattern." My phone buzzed. Amelia calling again. I declined it. "Does the board know?" I asked. "Not yet. I was preparing my report when I heard about your acquisition." Cameron sat back. "Thought you might want this information before the gala." The cafe door chimed. I glanced up to see Layla walking in. She spotted me and froze. "Don't look now," I told Cameron, "but we're about to have company." "Ellie!" Layla hurried over. "I've been trying to reach you. Amelia's a mess. She stopped, noticing Cameron. "Oh, sorry, I didn't realize." "It's fine," I said. "We're just discussing business. What about Amelia?" Layla shifted uncomfortably. She found something weird in her mail. Bank statements for accounts she says aren't hers. Axel told her it was a mistake, but— "When did these arrive?" Cameron interrupted. "Yesterday, after the dinner at LeBlanc." Layla looked between us. "What's going on?" I gathered the documents, sliding them into my bag. "Tell Amelia to keep those statements somewhere safe, and tell her not to sign anything Axel gives her." "Ellie, you're scaring me." "Good, you should be scared." I stood up. "Cameron, walk with me?" Outside, the morning sun was harsh and bright. Cameron fell into step beside me. "Your sister's lucky," he said. "Most of Axel's victims don't find out until it's too late." "She's not lucky. She's just got me." I stopped walking. "I need everything you have on his previous schemes." "Already compiled." He pulled a USB drive from his pocket. "But be careful. He gets dangerous when cornered." "So do I." My phone buzzed again. This time a text from Axel. "Just got an interesting call from the board. What have you done?" "Looks like he's starting to piece it together," Cameron observed, reading over my shoulder. "Good." I typed back. "Looking forward to discussing it at the gala." "You're enjoying this," Cameron noted, a hint of admiration in his voice. "Wouldn't you?" "Fair point." He handed me his card. "Call me if you need anything else." "And Ellie?" He caught my eye. "Make it hurt." I watched him walk away, then called Bruno. "We need to move up the timeline," I said when he answered. "How fast can you get the board together?" "They're already asking questions. Axel's been making calls all morning." "Perfect. Send me everything you have on the board members. And Bruno, make sure my sister gets an official invitation to the emergency board meeting." "Already done. But Ellie, be careful. Cornered rats bite." I ended the call and opened my rideshare app. Another text came through, this time from Amelia. "Found more statements. We need to talk. Please." Finally, I thought, the pieces were falling into place. "Where to?" the driver asked as I slid into the back seat. "Law offices of Riley and Associates," I replied, thinking of Christine. Time to prepare for war. The USB drive felt heavy in my pocket. Ammunition I hadn't expected, but desperately needed. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and sometimes it sends exactly the right ally at exactly the right time. The emergency board meeting was set for 3 p.m., but I arrived early to watch them file in. Axel's father, looking grave. His uncle, checking his phone nervously. Board members I'd researched extensively over the past months, all wearing expressions of concern. Amelia arrived last, clutching her purse like a shield. She'd been crying. "What is this?" Axel demanded when he saw me. "You can't be here." "Actually," Bruno stepped forward, "Ms. Pierce is now the majority shareholder. She has every right to be here." The room erupted in whispers. Axel's father stood up. "What did you say?" "Perhaps we should begin," I suggested, taking my seat at the head of the table. "We have a lot to discuss." Cameron entered quietly, carrying his audit reports. Axel's face went from red to white in seconds. "Before we start," I said, "I should mention that everything said here is being recorded. Legal requirement, you understand." "This is ridiculous," Axel sputtered. "You can't." "Show them," I nodded to Cameron. He connected his laptop to the projector. Bank statements filled the screen, transactions highlighted in angry red. "Over the past 14 months," Cameron began, "approximately $12 million has been diverted from company accounts into private holdings." Axel's father leaned forward. "That's impossible. Our internal audits were falsified," Cameron finished. "The real numbers tell a different story." I watched Amelia as the evidence mounted. Her hands shook as she recognized the account numbers, the same ones from her mysterious statements. "These accounts," Cameron continued, "were opened under the name of Amelia Pierce." All eyes turned to my sister. "I didn't," she started. "Axel told me they were investment accounts." "Did you sign anything?" I asked her quietly. She nodded, tears spilling. "Last week, he said it was for our future." "You bitch," Axel snarled at me. "You planned this." "No, Axel, you planned this. I just exposed it." I turned to the board. "I have a proposal. The company needs new leadership. I'm offering to step in, with immediate effect." "This is a family company," Axel's father protested. "And it will remain one," I assured him. "You'll keep your position as chairman, but your son needs to step down." "Or what?" "Or these documents go to the SEC." I let that sink in. "Your choice." The room fell silent, except for Amelia's quiet sobs. "There's more," Cameron added, changing slides. "Similar patterns at his previous employers. 3 companies, same scheme." Axel lunged across the table at Cameron. Security guards materialized, restraining him. "You're finished," he spat at me. "Both of you." He looked at Amelia. "All of you." "No," I corrected him. "You're finished. Guards, please escort Mr. Harris out. The police are waiting in the lobby." As they dragged him away, his father stood up. I moved to accept Ms. Pierce's proposal. The vote was unanimous. Afterward, in the empty boardroom, Amelia approached me. "Did you know about the accounts?" "Not until yesterday." I handed her Christine's card. "She's the best fraud lawyer in the city. Call her." "Why are you helping me?" "Because you're my sister, and because you're another one of his victims." I gathered my papers. "But Amelia, we're not okay. Not yet." "I know." She wiped her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Ellie, about everything." "Sorry doesn't fix it, but this might be a start." Cameron waited for me in the hallway. "That went well." "Better than expected." I checked my phone. Dozens of missed calls from Axel's family. "Now comes the hard part." "The gala's tomorrow," he reminded me. "Still planning to attend?" "Wouldn't miss it," I smiled. "Want to be my date?" He raised an eyebrow. "Mixing business with pleasure?" Maybe I just want someone trustworthy by my side for once. In that case, he offered his arm, let's get coffee and you can tell me what you're really planning for tomorrow night. As we walked out, I saw Axel being led into a police car. Karma, with a little help from careful planning and unexpected allies. My phone buzzed. Christine. Just met with Amelia. You're not going to believe what she told me. Save it for tomorrow, I texted back. The gala should be interesting. Looking up at Cameron, I felt something I hadn't experienced in weeks. Hope. Maybe revenge wasn't just about destruction. Maybe it could also be about rebuilding something better from the ashes. So, Cameron said as we reached the coffee shop, about tomorrow night? The gala would be my coronation as CEO, but somehow I had a feeling it would be about much more than just business. The gala ballroom sparkled with crystal and champagne, but all eyes were on me as I descended the grand staircase in a midnight blue gown. Cameron waited at the bottom, looking sharp in his tuxedo. Ready to make history? He whispered, taking my arm. Born ready. Cameras flashed as we made our entrance. The business world's elite mingled with local celebrities, all here to witness the announcement. Axel's father stood with the board members, his expression unreadable. Ellie! Christine waved us over. You need to hear what Amelia told me. Later, I promised. First, we have a show to put on. Bruno appeared with champagne. Everything's set. The press is eager for the announcement. Where's Amelia? I asked. Here. My sister emerged from the crowd in a simple black dress, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. The police interviewed me all morning. They're investigating all of Axel's past ventures. Good. I handed her a glass. Stay close. You'll want to hear this. The room hushed as Bruno took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. We have an important announcement regarding the future of Harris Technologies. I felt Amelia tense beside me. Please welcome our new CEO, Ms. Ellie Pierce. The applause was deafening as I took the stage. Camera flashes intensified. Thank you, I began. Harris Technologies has been a cornerstone of innovation for 3 generations. Tonight marks not just a change in leadership, but a new chapter in corporate responsibility. I caught Axel's father's eye. He nodded slightly. As my first act as CEO, I'm announcing a full audit of all company finances. Transparency will be our new foundation. Additionally, I paused for effect, we're establishing a victims' compensation fund for those affected by previous management's fraudulent activities. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Amelia gasped. To those who lost their savings, their trust, their futures, we see you. We will make this right. Cameron stepped forward, presenting additional documents to the press. The story would break tomorrow. Axel's complete history of fraud, the pattern of destruction he'd left behind. As I concluded my speech, Layla rushed in, looking frantic. She whispered something to Amelia, whose face went pale. What's wrong? I asked, stepping down from the stage. Axel made bail. Amelia's voice shook. He's here! On cue, the ballroom doors burst open. Axel stormed in, disheveled and wild-eyed. You think you've won? He shouted. You think this is over? Security moved toward him, but he pulled out an envelope. I have proof. She orchestrated everything. She trapped me. Cameron stepped between us. Leave now, Axel, while you still can. No. He threw the envelope at me, papers scattered across the floor. Read it. Tell them how you planned this for months. I picked up one of the papers, smiling. You mean these? The records of your offshore accounts? The ones you thought were so well hidden? His face fell. Or maybe you mean these emails? I held up another page. The ones showing you planned to frame my sister for your embezzlement? How did you— I learned from the best, didn't I? You taught me to always be 3 steps ahead. I turned to the shocked crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, Exhibit A in why you shouldn't underestimate the woman you're planning to betray. Security finally reached him, but Axel had one last card to play. Amelia, tell them! Tell them how we planned it together. All eyes turned to my sister. She stepped forward, Christine at her side. No, Axel, you planned it. You used me, just like you used everyone else. She pulled out a recording device. And I have proof. The color drained from his face as his own voice filled the room, detailing his schemes, his manipulations, his plans to frame Amelia if things went wrong. Take him out, I ordered security. The police are waiting. Again. As they dragged him away, Amelia turned to me. I recorded everything after I found those bank statements. Christine helped me understand what he was really doing. Good girl, I said softly. Maybe you're learning too. The press swarmed us, questions flying. Bruno stepped in, handling the media with practiced ease, while Cameron led me to a quiet corner. That was quite a show, he said. The night's not over yet. I checked my phone. The story's already breaking online. By morning, everyone will know exactly who Axel really is. And who you are, Cameron added. The brilliant CEO who exposed corporate fraud and protected investors. Not bad for a woman who was left at the altar, right? He smiled, offering his hand. Dance with me? As we swayed to the music, I caught Amelia's eye across the room. She mouthed, "Thank you," before disappearing into the crowd with Christine. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about building something stronger from the wreckage they left behind. The morning after the gala, I found Amelia waiting in my office, clutching a familiar white garment bag. Your wedding dress, she said quietly. I had it cleaned. I took the bag, laying it across my desk. Bit late for that, don't you think? I know. She twisted her hands together. The police called again this morning. They found more victims. So many, Ellie. How did I not see it? Because you saw what you wanted to see. I sat down behind my desk. Just like I did at first. A knock interrupted us. Cameron entered with coffee and files. Sorry, didn't realize you had company. Stay, I said. We need to discuss the victims' fund anyway. Amelia stood to leave, but I stopped her. You should hear this too. You're one of his victims now. Am I? Her voice cracked. Or am I just another perpetrator? Sit down, Amelia. I opened one of Cameron's files. Let's talk about how we fix this. Cameron spread documents across my desk. We've identified 23 victims across 4 companies. Total losses around 20 million. I'll cover it, I said. All of it. Ellie, no, Amelia protested. You can't. I can and I will. I signed the authorization. Consider it penance for not seeing through him sooner. My phone buzzed. Christine calling. I put her on speaker. Turn on the news, she said without preamble. Now. I clicked on the wall-mounted TV. Axel's face filled the screen, but not from the gala. This was security footage from years ago, showing him with another woman, young, vulnerable, familiar. That's Sarah, Cameron said quietly. My sister. We watched in silence as the story unfolded. Axel's pattern of seducing women, using them for financial gain, leaving them to take the fall. The reporter called it a systematic campaign of fraud and emotional manipulation. They interviewed Sarah this morning, Cameron added. She's been building this case for years. Amelia sank deeper into her chair. I feel sick. Good, I said. That means you're finally seeing clearly. Another knock, Bruno this time, with more files. Board's waiting in the conference room. They want to discuss damage control. No, I said firmly. No damage control. We face this head-on. Full transparency. The stock will take a hit, he warned. Let it. We'll rebuild stronger. I gathered my papers. Cameron, bring Sarah in this afternoon. I want her involved in structuring the victims' fund. What about me? Amelia asked softly. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Behind the designer clothes and perfect makeup, I saw something new. Remorse. Start by telling the truth, I said. To yourself, to the police, to everyone. Then we'll talk about forgiveness. She nodded, tears spilling. I never meant. I know. I surprised myself by reaching for her hand. But you did it anyway. Cameron cleared his throat. The board's waiting. Go, Amelia said, wiping her eyes. I'll talk to the police again. Tell them everything. As she left, Cameron touched my arm. You're being kinder than she deserves. Maybe. I picked up my wedding dress. Or maybe I'm just tired of letting Axel destroy everything he touches. The board meeting was brutal, but necessary. We laid out every detail of Axel's fraud, every victim, every dollar. His father sat silent throughout, aging years before our eyes. Afterward, Cameron found me on the office balcony. Sarah wants to meet you, he said. She says you're her hero. I laughed. Funny, I don't feel very heroic. No? He leaned against the railing. You exposed a serial fraudster, protected his victims, and somehow managed to save your sister in the process. She hasn't been saved yet. But you're giving her the chance. He turned to face me. That's more than most would do. My phone buzzed. Another news alert. Axel's bail had been revoked. New charges filed. Karma's finally catching up, Cameron noted. With a little help, I added. Speaking of help. He shifted nervously. Would you like to have dinner with me? Not for business this time. I looked at him. Really looked. At his kind eyes, his steady presence, his unwavering support through this chaos. Yes, I said. I'd like that. Below us, the city sprawled out, oblivious to the drama in our corporate tower. Somewhere out there, Axel was facing consequences, Amelia was finding her truth, and victims were finally seeing justice. What now? Cameron asked. Now? I smiled. Now we rebuild, together. The wedding dress still lay across my desk, a reminder of what I'd lost and what I'd gained. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better. The courtroom fell silent as the judge prepared to deliver Axel's sentence. I sat between Cameron and Christine, watching my former fiancé in his prison jumpsuit. He looked small now, nothing like the man who'd once seemed larger than life. The defendant has shown a pattern of deliberate fraud and manipulation, the judge began. The impact on his victims has been devastating. Amelia squeezed my hand from the row behind us. She'd testified yesterday, laying bare every detail of Axel's manipulation. Her testimony had been the final nail in his coffin. Taking into account the severity and repeated nature of these crimes, the judge continued, this court sentences the defendant to 15 years in federal prison. The gallery erupted in whispers. Sarah, sitting with other victims, burst into tears. Additionally, the defendant is ordered to make full restitution to all victims. Axel stood, handcuffed. Your Honor, please. Remove the defendant, the judge ordered. As guards led him away, Axel caught my eye. I held his gaze, refusing to look away until he disappeared through the side door. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Bruno stepped forward, handling the press while Cameron guided me through the crowd. Ms. Pierce, a reporter called out. How does it feel to see justice served? I stopped, turning to face the cameras. This isn't about justice for me. It's about protection, protecting past victims, future victims, and everyone who trusted him. That's what leadership means. In the parking lot, Amelia waited by my car. Did you mean what you said in there, about protection? Yes. I unlocked the doors. Get in, we need to talk. We drove to our childhood park, where we used to share secrets and dreams. The swings were empty, waiting. Remember when we used to compete to swing higher? Amelia asked as we sat down. You always won. No, she smiled sadly. I just made more noise about it. You always flew higher. Cameron had offered to come, but this moment needed to be just us. Sisters, trying to find their way back. I sold my apartment, Amelia said suddenly. Used the money to start a support group for fraud victims. Sarah's helping me run it. I know. Christine told me. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she continued. I just want you to know I'm trying to be better. A family walked past. 2 little girls holding hands, their parents following behind. We watched them in silence. I kept your wedding dress, I finally said. Why? To remind me that sometimes the worst moments lead us to the best decisions. I dug in my purse, pulling out an envelope. Which is why I want you to have this. She opened it, reading quickly. A job offer? Head of our new victim advocacy department. You've got the experience now, both sides of it. Use it. Ellie. She wiped her eyes. Why are you doing this? Because you're my sister. And because everyone deserves a chance to rebuild. My phone buzzed. Cameron sending a photo from our dinner last night. We were both laughing, caught in a moment of pure joy. He's good for you, Amelia observed. Better than Axel ever was. He sees me, really sees me. I stood up. Just like I finally see you. And what do you see? Someone who got lost but found her way back. Someone who's trying. I offered my hand. Someone who might be ready to be my sister again. She took my hand, standing. I don't deserve you. No, you didn't. But maybe you can earn it now. Walking back to the car, we passed a bridal shop. In the window, a wedding dress, not unlike mine, caught the sunlight. You should wear blue, Amelia said suddenly, when you marry Cameron. Getting ahead of yourself there. Maybe, but I've seen how he looks at you, how you look at him. My phone buzzed again. Bruno this time. The company stock had rebounded, stronger than ever. Trust, it seemed, was good for business. Ready to go back to work? I asked Amelia. Ready to start over, she corrected. As we drove back to the office, I thought about karma and consequences, about betrayal and forgiveness, about how sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's rising above it, bringing others up with you. Cameron waited in the lobby, holding coffee and possibility. Beside me, Amelia straightened her shoulders, ready to face her new beginning. Welcome to Harris Technologies, I told her. Try not to steal anything this time. She laughed, a real laugh, like when we were kids. No promises, but I'll try to earn it instead. Sometimes that's all we can do. Try to be better than we were yesterday. And sometimes that's enough.
Nina, you're being dramatic. It's just a family dinner. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, gripping the porcelain sink until my knuckles went white. Just a family dinner. Right. The kind where my sister Prudence would inevitably announce some new achievement while I sat there nodding like a bobblehead, pretending my life wasn't falling apart at the seams. My name is Nina, and I'm 29 years old. I work as a graphic designer for a small marketing firm, live in a studio apartment with a leaky faucet, and haven't been on a decent date in 8 months. But none of that matters when you're sitting across from Prudence Morrison, formerly Prudence Whitney, who married a millionaire at 28 and looks like she stepped out of a magazine spread. Nina, get down here! Mom's voice echoed up the stairs of my childhood home. Prudence and Kyson are here. I smoothed down my dress, the nicest one I owned, which still looked cheap next to anything in Prudence's closet, and headed downstairs. The dining room was already buzzing with conversation. Dad was pouring wine while Mom fussed over the table settings. Prudence sat perfectly poised in her chair, her blonde hair cascading over one shoulder, wearing what I was pretty sure was a designer dress that cost more than my monthly rent. Kyson sat beside her, looking polished but tired in that way successful men do when they work too much. There she is! Prudence beamed at me, but something felt off about her smile. Too bright, too forced. Nina, you look lovely. Thanks. I slid into my usual seat, the one furthest from the head of the table, naturally. Sorry I'm late. We were just telling your parents about our latest news, Kyson said, reaching for Prudence's hand. His voice was warm, genuine. I'd always liked Kyson. He was one of those rare wealthy guys who didn't act like he was doing you a favor by breathing the same air. Mom practically vibrated with excitement. Oh, Nina, you'll never guess. I looked between them, waiting. Prudence's smile flickered for just a second. We're trying to start a family, she announced. We've been working with a fertility specialist for months now. The room went quiet, except for the soft clink of Dad setting down his wine glass. "That's wonderful," I said, "because that's what you're supposed to say. I'm so happy for you both." "Well, that's actually why we wanted to have dinner tonight," Prudence continued. She glanced at Kyson, who nodded encouragingly. "We have something to ask you." My stomach dropped. I knew that look. It was the same expression Prudence had worn when she'd asked me to cover for her when she snuck out in high school, or when she'd needed me to lie to our parents about where she'd been. The look that said she was about to ask for something big. "The doctors think our best option might be surrogacy," Kyson explained gently. "We've been discussing it for weeks, and Prudence suggested—" "I suggested you," Prudence finished. "Nina, would you consider being our surrogate?" The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at her, my mouth opening and closing like a fish. "Oh my goodness," Mom gasped. "Nina, what an honor. What a beautiful way to help your sister." Dad nodded enthusiastically. "It would keep everything in the family. Very special." "I know it's a lot to ask," Prudence said, leaning forward. "But Nina, you're the only person I trust with something this important. You're my sister. Your family." Family. The word that had always been my weakness when it came to Prudence. How many times had I heard it over the years? "But we're family, Nina. Family helps family, Nina." "You wouldn't let your sister down, would you, Nina?" I started, but Kyson interrupted. "Of course, we'd cover all medical expenses," he said quickly, "and there would be compensation for your time and effort. We want to make sure you're taken care of." "Money isn't the issue," I said, though honestly, it would help. "It's just, this is huge." "Think about it," Prudence said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "You'd be giving us the greatest gift imaginable. Our child would literally exist because of you." I looked around the table at their expectant faces. Mom was practically glowing with pride. Dad kept nodding like this was the most natural thing in the world. Kyson looked hopeful but respectful, like he'd accept whatever I decided. And Prudence. Prudence looked at me with those blue eyes that had always been able to convince me to do anything. "Okay," I heard myself say. "Yes, I'll do it." The table erupted in celebration. Mom started crying happy tears. Dad raised his wine glass in a toast. Kyson looked genuinely moved. But as I watched Prudence's face light up with triumph, I caught something else in her expression. Something that made my stomach twist. Relief. But not the kind you'd expect from a woman who'd just been offered the chance to have a baby. It was the relief of someone whose plan had just fallen into place. Later, as I helped clear the dishes, I overheard Prudence on her phone in the hallway. "Yes, it worked perfectly," she was saying in a low voice. She said yes. Now we just need to make sure all the steps are in place before... She noticed me and quickly hung up. "Just coordinating with the clinic," she said with that bright smile. "I'm so excited, Nina. This is going to change everything." I nodded and smiled back, but something cold had settled in my chest. She was right about one thing. This was definitely going to change everything. 3 weeks later, I was staring at 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test in the clinic bathroom. "Nina?" The nurse knocked softly. "Everything okay in there?" "Yeah, just processing." I opened the door, holding up the test. "It worked." Her face broke into a huge smile. "Congratulations. Let's get you back to Dr. Martinez so we can confirm with the blood work." The next hour was a blur of medical terminology and congratulations. The embryo transfer had been successful. I was officially pregnant with my sister's baby. "We'll want to see you back in 2 weeks," Dr. Martinez said, shaking my hand. "And remember, no strenuous activity, plenty of rest, and call if you have any concerns." I walked out of the clinic in a daze, my phone already buzzing with texts from Prudence. "How did it go?" "I'm dying here." "Call me the second you know anything. Kyson is pacing around the house like a crazy person." I dialed her number before I even reached my car. "Nina," she picked up on the first ring. "Please tell me you have good news." "I'm pregnant," I said, and heard her shriek of joy through the phone. Oh my God, Kyson, she's pregnant." I could hear her running through their house. "Nina, you beautiful, amazing woman. I could kiss you right now." Despite everything, I found myself smiling. This was the Prudence I remembered from childhood, genuinely excited, full of joy. Maybe I'd been overthinking things. "I'll call Mom and Dad," she continued. "They're going to be over the moon, and Kyson wants to take us all out to dinner to celebrate. Somewhere fancy. My treat. Prudence, we should probably wait until—" "Nonsense! This is happening. We're having a baby." She paused. "Well, you know what I mean." Yeah, I knew what she meant. The celebration dinner was at some upscale steakhouse downtown. Mom cried again. Dad made a toast about the miracle of family. Kyson kept thanking me every 5 minutes until I told him to stop or I'd change my mind. "To Nina," he said, raising his glass, "the most selfless person I know." Everyone drank except me, obviously. I sipped my sparkling water and tried to ignore the weird feeling in my stomach that had nothing to do with morning sickness. Over the next few weeks, things got strange. At first, Prudence called me constantly. How was I feeling? Did I need anything? Should she come over? But gradually, the calls became less frequent. When I texted her about my first real bout of morning sickness, she took 6 hours to respond with a simple, "Sorry to hear that." When I called to tell her about my 8-week appointment, she seemed distracted. "That's great, Nina. Listen, I'm actually really busy with some legal stuff right now. Can we catch up later?" Legal stuff. That was new. I started noticing other things too. Prudence stopped asking about baby names or nursery plans. When I brought up prenatal classes, she changed the subject. And whenever I mentioned telling people about the pregnancy, she got weird. "Let's keep it quiet for now," she'd say. "You know how people can be about surrogacy. Let's wait until you're further along." But the strangest thing was how she acted around Kyson. At family dinners, there was this tension between them that hadn't been there before. He'd try to include her in conversations about the baby, and she'd give these tight smiles and excuse herself to take phone calls. Everything came to a head on a Tuesday afternoon in my 10th week. I was at home, working on a client project, when Prudence showed up at my door unannounced. She looked different, thinner, more angular. Her usual perfect composure was cracked around the edges. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into my apartment. "Okay." I closed the door behind her. "What's going on? You've been acting weird for weeks." She turned to face me, and for the first time in my life, Prudence looked genuinely uncomfortable. "Nina, I need you to do something for me." "What kind of something?" She took a deep breath. "I need you to terminate the pregnancy." The words hit me like a slap. "What?" "I know how it sounds, but hear me out." "Are you insane?" I stared at her. "Prudence, I'm 10 weeks pregnant with your baby. The baby you begged me to carry." "It's not my baby," she said quietly. "What do you mean it's not your baby? It's your embryo. Your egg, Kyson's sperm." "Nina, sit down." Something in her tone made my blood run cold. I sank onto my couch and she sat across from me, her hands folded in her lap like she was about to deliver a business presentation. "I never wanted a baby," she said. "I've never wanted kids. The whole fertility struggle, I made it up." My mouth fell open. "You made it up?" "Kyson wants kids desperately. It's been a problem in our marriage for years, but I knew if I kept stalling, he'd eventually leave me." She looked at her manicured nails. "So I came up with a plan. A plan. The surrogacy was never about having a baby, Nina. It was about buying time. Kyson filed for divorce 3 weeks ago." The room started spinning. "He filed for divorce?" "He doesn't know I know yet. My lawyer found out." She leaned forward. "Here's the thing. If I'm involved in an act of surrogacy, If there's a baby on the way, I can claim emotional distress. The divorce gets messier, takes longer, and I walk away with a lot more money. I felt like I was going to throw up, and not from morning sickness. But now the timing's all wrong, she continued. My lawyer says it's better if the pregnancy doesn't continue, cleaner that way. We can say it was a tragic loss. I get my settlement and everyone moves on. Everyone moves on, I repeated numbly. I'll pay you, obviously, 50,000, cash, for your trouble. I stared at my sister, this woman I'd looked up to my entire life, who I'd thought was desperate to become a mother, and felt something inside me break. Get out, I whispered. Nina, be reasonable. Get out, I screamed, jumping to my feet. Get out of my apartment right now. She stood up, smoothing down her dress. Think about it, Nina. $50,000. That's more money than you've ever seen. I said, get out. She walked to the door, then turned back. You have 48 hours to decide. After that, things get complicated. The door closed behind her with a soft click. I stood there in my empty apartment, one hand instinctively moving to my still flat stomach, and realized I was completely alone. My sister had just asked me to kill my baby for money. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I wondered what she'd meant by, things get complicated. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat on my couch with my laptop, Googling everything I could about surrogacy laws, divorce proceedings, and emotional distress claims. By 3 a.m., I had a pretty clear picture of what Prudence was trying to pull. The next morning, my phone rang. Jordan. You sound like hell, she said when I answered. Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Seriously, Nina, what's wrong? You left me 3 voicemails last night that made 0 sense. I took a deep breath. Can you come over? I need to tell you something, and I can't do it over the phone. 20 minutes later, Jordan was sitting on my couch with 2 cups of coffee, listening to me explain the whole twisted situation. Holy shit, she said when I finished. Holy actual shit, Nina. Yeah, your sister is a sociopath. That's what I'm starting to think. Jordan set down her coffee and grabbed my hands. Okay, first things first. You're not terminating this pregnancy for her sick scheme, right? Please tell me that's not even on the table. Of course not. But Jordan, what if she tries to force me somehow? What if... She can't force you to do anything. This is your body, your choice. Period. Jordan squeezed my hands. But we need to be smart about this. If she's as calculating as you say, she's not going to just accept no for an answer. That's when I remembered something. She said I had 48 hours and then things get complicated. What do you think that means? I don't know, but I don't want to find out. I pulled out my phone. I need to record everything, every conversation, every text. If she's planning something, I want proof. Jordan nodded. Good thinking. What about Kyson? Does he know any of this? I don't think so. Prudence said he doesn't know she knows about the divorce filing. Nina, you have to tell him. My stomach clenched. I can't. He's going through enough already. He has a right to know what she's doing. And honestly, he might be your best ally in this. I stared at my phone, scrolling through Kyson's contact information. Jordan was right, but the thought of telling him made me sick. What if he doesn't believe me? Then we'll have the recordings to back you up. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a coffee shop downtown, waiting for Kyson. I'd texted him asking to meet, saying I needed to discuss something about the pregnancy. He'd agreed immediately, probably thinking I had concerns about medical stuff. He walked in, looking tired but concerned, scanning the room until he spotted me. When he sat down, I noticed the dark circles under his eyes. Nina, is everything okay? Is it the baby? The baby's fine, I said quickly, but we need to talk about Prudence. His expression shifted. What about her? I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table between us. I'm going to tell you something that's going to be hard to hear, and I'm recording this conversation because I have a feeling I'm going to need proof of what I'm about to say. Kaisen's face went pale. Nina, you're scaring me. Good, you should be scared. I took a deep breath. Prudence came to see me yesterday. She asked me to terminate the pregnancy. What? The word came out as barely a whisper. She told me the whole thing was a scam, Kaisen. The fertility issues, the desperate need for a baby, all of it was fake. She said you filed for divorce 3 weeks ago, and she's using the surrogacy to claim emotional distress and get more money in the settlement. Kaisen stared at me like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. That's impossible. Prudence wants this baby more than anything. No, she doesn't. She told me she's never wanted kids. She offered me $50,000 to get rid of it. Nina, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. I pulled up the voice recording app on my phone. I recorded part of our conversation yesterday. Do you want to hear it? His face went white. You recorded her? Listen, I played back Prudence's voice crystal clear. The surrogacy was never about having a baby, Nina. It was about buying time. Kaisen filed for divorce 3 weeks ago. If I'm involved in an active surrogacy, if there's a baby on the way, I can claim emotional distress. Kaisen's hands started shaking. He grabbed the phone, staring at it like it might bite him. There's more, I said quietly, and played the rest. When Prudence's voice said, I'll pay you, obviously, 50,000, cash, for your trouble, Kaisen made a sound like he'd been punched in the gut. Oh God, he whispered. Oh my God, Nina, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was capable of this. So it's true about the divorce? He nodded miserably. I filed the papers 3 weeks ago. We've been having problems for months, and when she kept making excuses about starting a family, he looked up at me with haunted eyes. I thought the surrogacy meant she was finally ready. I thought we were going to work things out. Kaisen, I'm so sorry. No, I'm sorry. You're carrying our child, and she's treating you like some kind of pawn in her game. He ran his hands through his hair. What did you tell her? I told her to get out, but she said if I don't decide in 48 hours, things get complicated. What does that mean? I don't know, but I'm scared to find out. Kaisen was quiet for a long moment, staring at his coffee. When he looked up, there was something different in his eyes, something harder. Nina, I want you to know that whatever happens, I'm going to protect you and this baby. Prudence might be my wife, but what she's doing is unforgivable. What are you going to do? First, I'm calling my lawyer. Then I'm going home to confront her. He stood up. But Nina, I need you to promise me something. What? Don't be alone with her again. If she shows up at your apartment, don't let her in. If she calls, record everything. And if anything happens, anything at all, you call me immediately. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and terror. At least I wasn't alone anymore. Kaisen? Yeah? What if she tries to claim I'm lying? What if she says I made all this up? He smiled grimly. Then it's a good thing you recorded her, isn't it? As he walked away, I realized something had shifted. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just reacting to Prudence's manipulations. I was planning my own moves, and I was going to win. Kaisen called me at 11 p.m. that night. She's gone, he said without preamble. Gone where? I don't know. I confronted her when I got home. Played her your recording. His voice was flat, exhausted. She didn't even try to deny it, Nina. She just stood there and smiled like she was proud of herself. I sat up in bed. What did she say? She said I was naive if I thought she'd ever wanted to be stuck with a screaming baby and a boring husband. Then she packed a bag and left. Jesus, Kaisen, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. You saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. He paused. But Nina, she said something before she left that worried me. My stomach dropped. What? She said you'd regret getting involved in grown-up business, that you had no idea what you'd started. The same cold feeling from yesterday washed over me. What do you think she meant? I don't know, but my lawyer wants to meet with both of us tomorrow morning. Can you do 10 a.m.? Yeah, of course. Good. And Nina, pack a bag. I want you to stay in my guest room until we figure out what she's planning. Kaisen, I can't impose. You're carrying my child. You're not imposing, you're family. Family. The word hit different coming from him than it ever had from Prudence. The next morning, I sat in a conference room across from River Cox, Kaisen's divorce attorney. She was sharp-eyed and no-nonsense, the kind of woman who probably ate opposing counsel for breakfast. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, River said, reviewing her notes. Prudence fabricated fertility issues, convinced you to be a surrogate, and now wants you to terminate the pregnancy to strengthen her divorce case? That's right. And you have recordings of her admitting this? I nodded and played the audio again. River's expression got darker with each word. This is fraud, she said finally. Medical fraud, emotional manipulation, possibly extortion depending on what she meant by things getting complicated. What can we do? Kaisen asked. Several things. First, we're filing an emergency motion to freeze her access to your joint accounts. If she's planning something, money is usually involved. River turned to me. Second, Nina, I strongly recommend you get a restraining order. A restraining order? Against my own sister? Your sister just tried to convince you to terminate a pregnancy for her financial gain. That's not normal sibling behavior. She had a point. What about the baby? I asked. Legally, where do I stand? As the surrogate, you have rights. But the situation is complicated by the fact that this was supposed to be a family arrangement, not a formal surrogacy contract. River pulled out a thick folder. We need to establish legal parentage immediately. I'm recommending Kaisen file for sole custody, with you listed as the birth mother. What does that mean exactly? It means you and Kaisen would be the legal parents. Prudence would have no claim to the child. Kaisen reached over and squeezed my hand. Only if that's what you want, Nina. This is your choice. I looked between them, feeling the weight of the decision. 3 weeks ago, I thought I was helping my sister start a family. Now I was potentially starting one of my own. Yes, I said. That's what I want. River smiled. Good. I'll have the paperwork ready by this afternoon. We were walking out of the law office when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You think you're so smart, don't you? Enjoy it while it lasts. I showed it to Kaisen. His jaw tightened. We're going to the police, he said. Kaisen, it's just a text. No, it's harassment, and it's probably just the beginning. He was right. Over the next 2 days, the messages escalated. Poor little Nina, always so desperate for attention. Wait until Mom and Dad hear what you've really been up to. You have no idea what I'm capable of. But the worst one came on Thursday morning. Enjoy your little pregnancy while you can. Accidents happen all the time. That one made my hands shake so badly I could barely hold the phone. That's it, Kaisen said when I showed him. We're filing the restraining order today. But before we could get to the courthouse, my phone rang. Mom. Nina Elizabeth Whitney. What the hell is wrong with you? I put the phone on speaker so Kaisen could hear. Hi, Mom. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me. Prudence told me everything. How you seduced Kaisen. How you're trying to steal her husband and her baby. Mom, that's not... She's devastated, Nina. Absolutely devastated. She's staying with us because she's too heartbroken to be in her own home. Kaisen's face went red. He grabbed the phone. Virginia, this is Kaisen. Your daughter Prudence is a liar and a fraud. She tried to convince Nina to terminate our baby for money. Don't you dare speak about my daughter that way. Prudence told me how you've been manipulating Nina, turning her against her own family. I have recordings of Prudence admitting everything. There was a pause. Recordings can be faked. Jesus Christ, Kyson muttered. Mom, I said, taking the phone back, please just listen to me for 1 minute. I don't want to hear it, Nina. You've always been jealous of your sister, and now you've gone too far. If you don't stop this nonsense and do the right thing, you're going to lose your family forever. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, feeling like I'd been slapped. Nina, Kyson said gently, I'm sorry. She didn't even want to hear my side. Because Prudence got to her first. That's what manipulators do. They control the narrative. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my dad. Your mother is very upset. Maybe it's time to reconsider your position. Some things are more important than money. They think I'm doing this for money, I said, showing Kyson the text. What do you want to do? I looked at him, this man who'd been nothing but kind to me, who was willing to fight for a baby that wasn't even biologically his anymore, who'd chosen to believe me over his own wife. I want to fight, I said. I want to show them exactly who Prudence really is. Kyson smiled. Good, because I just got a text from River. She found something interesting in Prudence's financial records. What kind of something? The kind that's going to make your parents very uncomfortable when they realize what their golden child has really been up to. For the first time in days, I felt hope. Prudence wanted to play games? Fine, let's play. River's discovery was a bombshell. Your sister has been siphoning money from Kyson's accounts for months, she said, spreading financial documents across the conference table. Small amounts at first, but it escalated. We're talking about nearly $200,000. I stared at the bank statements. She stole $200,000? Technically, as his wife, she had legal access to the joint accounts, but look at this. River pointed to a series of transactions. She's been moving money to offshore accounts, liquidating investments, even taking cash advances on credit cards in Kyson's name. Kyson's face was stone. She was planning to disappear. That's what it looks like. The surrogacy scheme was probably her backup plan in case you didn't file for divorce when she expected. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Hope you're enjoying your little victory lap? Check your email. I opened my email app with shaking hands. There was a message from a Gmail account I didn't recognize with attachments. Oh my God, I whispered. What is it? Kyson leaned over to look. The email contained photos. Photos of me leaving the fertility clinic, entering Kyson's house, sitting in the coffee shop with him. The subject line read, Home Wrecker's Evidence Package. She's been following me, I said, my voice barely audible. River grabbed my phone. This is stalking. We're filing charges immediately. But before we could do anything, my work phone rang. Nina, it's Marcus. My boss sounded uncomfortable. I need you to come in. We have a situation. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Marcus's office while he showed me printouts of social media posts. Someone created a Facebook page called Nina Whitney the Truth, he said. It's got photos of you, claims you seduced a married man and are trying to steal his baby. I scrolled through the posts, feeling sick. There were the photos from the email, but also older ones, me at company events, at the grocery store, even one from high school that I had no idea how she'd gotten. The captions were vicious. Nina Whitney pretends to be the sweet little sister, but she's actually a manipulative homewrecker who targeted her own sister's husband. She convinced them she wanted to help with surrogacy, then tried to steal the baby and the man. Disgusting. This woman works at Davidson Marketing. Would you trust someone like this with your business? Marcus, none of this is true. I believe you, Nina, but we've already had 3 clients call asking about it. And honestly, the company can't afford this kind of publicity. My heart sank. Are you firing me? I'm putting you on administrative leave until this gets resolved. With pay, he added quickly. But Nina, you need to fix this fast. I drove back to Kyson's house in a daze. When I walked in, he was on the phone with someone, his voice tight with anger. I don't care what your daughter told you. I have bank records showing she stole from me and recordings of her trying to coerce Nina into terminating our baby. He saw me and held up one finger. No, Edward, I will not work this out quietly. Your daughter is a criminal, and I'm pressing charges. He hung up and turned to me. Your dad. Apparently Prudence told them you're blackmailing me. She got me suspended from work. Kyson's face darkened. What? I showed him the Facebook page. By now it had over 300 followers and dozens of comments, most of them calling me horrible names. This ends now, he said, grabbing his phone. Who are you calling? My mother. Audrey arrived within the hour and she was furious. That little witch, she said after we'd explained everything. I never liked her, Kyson. I told you she was trouble from day one. Mom, not now. No, I'm serious. A mother knows these things. She turned to me. Nina, sweetheart, I am so sorry you're going through this. It's not your fault. It's not yours either. And we're going to make sure everyone knows it. Audrey pulled out her phone. I have friends on the country club board, the hospital auxiliary, the charity circuit. Prudence thinks she can destroy your reputation. Let's see how she likes it when her own reputation gets shredded. Audrey, I don't want to stoop to her level. Honey, sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, especially when you're protecting an innocent baby. My phone rang. Jordan. Nina, what the hell is happening? My mom just called me about some Facebook page. It's a long story. Can you come over? I'm already in my car. Jordan arrived just as River was explaining our legal options. We can get the Facebook page taken down for harassment and defamation, River said. But it'll take time, and the damage might already be done. What about criminal charges? Jordan asked. Theft, fraud, stalking, harassment. We've got enough to put her away for years if we can prove she's behind all of this. If, I asked, the social media accounts are anonymous. The photos could have been taken by anyone. We need more direct evidence. That's when my phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from an unknown number. Don't answer it, Kyson said. No, I want to hear what she has to say. I put it on speaker and hit record. Hello, Nina. Prudence's voice was sickeningly sweet. Prudence. I see you've been busy, playing house with my husband, turning my own family against me. Your family turned against you when they found out what you really are. Prudence laughed. Oh, sweet Nina. You still don't get it, do you? I've been planning this for months. Every move you make, I'm 3 steps ahead. Like stealing Kyson's money? Like making sure everyone knows what a pathetic, desperate little homewrecker you are. Did you enjoy your day at work today? River was frantically taking notes, gesturing for me to keep her talking. You can't destroy my life just because yours is falling apart. Can I? Nina, you have no idea what I'm capable of. This is just the beginning. What do you want? I want you to disappear. Take whatever money Kyson's offered you and leave town. Get rid of the baby and never contact any of us again. And if I don't? Then things get much, much worse for you. You think losing your job is bad. Wait until I'm done with you. The line went dead. River looked up from her notes, smiling grimly. Well, that was incredibly stupid of her. What do you mean? She just confessed to orchestrating your job suspension and threatened to escalate her harassment campaign on a recorded call. River stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, we just got everything we need to destroy her. Kyson squeezed my hand. It's going to be okay, Nina. She just made her biggest mistake. I looked around the room at these people who were fighting for me. Kyson, his mother, River, Jordan, my real family. Good, I said, because I'm done being her victim. It was time for Prudence to learn what happens when you mess with the wrong sister. The mediation was scheduled for the following Thursday at River's law firm. Prudence's lawyer, Zuriel, had agreed to the meeting, thinking it was just about divorce settlement negotiations. He had no idea what was coming. Remember, River told me as we waited in the conference room. Let me do most of the talking. Your job is to stay calm and let the evidence speak for itself. Kyson sat beside me, his hand resting protectively on my shoulder. You've got this, Nina. At exactly 2 p.m., the door opened. Zuriel walked in first, a sharp-dressed man in his 50s who looked like he charged by the minute. Behind him came Prudence. She looked perfect, as always, hairstyled, makeup flawless, wearing a black dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. But when she saw me, her mask slipped for just a second. Pure hatred flashed across her face before she composed herself. Kyson, she said sweetly, taking a seat across from us, I'm so glad we can finally sit down and work this out like adults. Cut the act, Prudence, Kyson said coldly. Zuriel opened his briefcase. Let's keep this professional. My client is prepared to be reasonable about the settlement terms, given the unique circumstances. What unique circumstances? River asked innocently. The surrogacy situation, of course. My client has suffered tremendous emotional distress. Has she now? River pulled out a tablet. That's interesting because we have some evidence that suggests otherwise. She pressed play on the first recording. Prudence's voice filled the room. I never wanted a baby. I've never wanted kids. The whole fertility struggle, I made it up. Zuriel's face went white. He turned to Prudence, who was staring at the tablet like it might explode. There's more, River said, playing the second recording. The surrogacy was never about having a baby, Nina. It was about buying time. This is illegal, Zuriel sputtered. You can't record someone without their consent. Actually, in this state, only one party needs to consent to recording a conversation. Nina consented to recording her own conversations. River smiled, but that's not even the best part. She pulled out a stack of financial documents. Your client has been systematically stealing from my client's accounts for the past 6 months. Nearly $200,000 moved to offshore accounts. Prudence finally spoke. Those are joint accounts. I had every right to commit fraud, to forge Kyson's signature on loan applications. River slid a document across the table. We found this particularly interesting. It was a loan application for $50,000, signed with Kyson's name, but the handwriting analysis report clipped to it showed it was forged. You took out loans in my name? Kyson's voice was deadly quiet. Prudence's composure was cracking. Kyson, you don't understand. Oh, but I do understand. He leaned forward. You've been planning to rob me blind and disappear. The surrogacy was just your insurance policy in case I didn't file for divorce when you expected. Zuriel was frantically whispering to Prudence, but she wasn't listening. She was staring at me with undisguised rage. This is all your fault, she hissed. You couldn't just do what I asked. You had to be the hero. Prudence, stop talking, Zuriel warned, but she was past caring. You think you've won something? You think Kyson actually cares about you? You're just the incubator, Nina. Once that baby's born, you'll be nothing to him. That's enough, Kyson said, standing up. Is it? Because I'm not done. Prudence stood too, her perfect facade completely gone now. You want to know what I'm really capable of? Ask Nina about her job. Ask her about the Facebook page. Ask her about the photos I've been taking. Zuriel looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Prudence, please. I've been documenting everything. Every meeting, every secret rendezvous. I have enough evidence to prove Nina seduced my husband and manipulated him into this whole situation. River was taking notes frantically. Please continue. I created that Facebook page. I called her boss. I've been following her for weeks, taking pictures, building a case. Prudence's voice was getting higher, more unhinged. You think you can destroy my life? I'll destroy yours first. The room went dead silent. Zuriel slowly closed his briefcase. I need to speak with my client privately. Actually, River said, I don't think that's necessary. We have everything we need right here. She pulled out another set of documents. Restraining order granted this morning. Criminal charges for theft, fraud, stalking, and harassment filed with the district attorney's office, and a motion for emergency custody, naming Kyson as the sole legal father and Nina as the birth mother. Prudence's face went ashen. You can't do this. We just did. River stood up. Your client has 48 hours to return the stolen money and cease all contact with Nina and Kyson. If she doesn't comply, she'll be arrested. This isn't over, Prudence said, grabbing her purse. Yes, it is. Kyson's voice was final. You're out of my life, out of my house, and out of my bank accounts. And if you come near Nina or our baby again, I'll make sure you spend the next 5 years in prison. Prudence looked around the room at all of us, her face twisted with fury and desperation. You'll regret this, she said to me. All of you will regret this. The only thing I regret, I said, finally finding my voice, is that it took me 29 years to see who you really are. She stormed out, Zuriel trailing behind her like a whipped dog. River sat back down, grinning. Well, that went better than expected. Better? I asked. She confessed to everything on the record. Stalking, harassment, creating the Facebook page, getting you suspended from work. My paralegal was recording the whole meeting. Kyson squeezed my hand. It's over, Nina. She can't hurt you anymore. But even as relief flooded through me, I couldn't shake the look in Prudence's eyes as she'd left. This might be over, but something told me the real consequences were just beginning. For all of us. The fallout was swift and brutal. Within 24 hours of the mediation, Prudence's mugshot was all over the local news. Local woman arrested for fraud and stalking read the headline in the morning paper. The article detailed the theft, the forged loans, and the harassment campaign. I was feeding breakfast to my growing belly when Jordan called. Have you seen the news? She asked. I'm trying not to look. Nina, you need to see this. Channel 7 is running the story right now. I turned on the TV just in time to see a reporter standing outside the courthouse. Prudence Morrison was arrested yesterday on multiple charges including theft, fraud, and stalking. The victim appears to be her own sister, who was serving as a surrogate for Morrison and her estranged husband. My phone started ringing immediately. Unknown numbers, one after another. Don't answer, Kyson said, walking into the kitchen. River says reporters have been calling her office all morning. This is insane. I never wanted it to be public. Prudence made it public when she created that Facebook page. Now she gets to deal with the consequences. The consequences were devastating. By noon, I'd received calls from 3 of my former clients wanting to hire me freelance. Apparently, the real story had gotten out, and people were horrified by what Prudence had done. But the best call came from Marcus. Nina, I owe you an apology, he said. I just got off the phone with 5 different people who called to tell me what really happened. Your job is waiting for you whenever you're ready to come back. Thank you, Marcus. That means everything. Actually, there's more. The Davidson Group wants to offer you a promotion. Seems like surviving your psycho sister has made you something of a local celebrity. I laughed despite everything. I'll think about it, but not everyone was supportive. My parents called that afternoon. Nina, how could you do this to your sister? Mom's voice was shrill through the speakerphone. Do what? Tell the truth? You've destroyed her life. She's been arrested. She's all over the news. She can't show her face anywhere. She destroyed her own life when she decided to steal money and stalk me. That's not what happened, Dad interjected. Prudence explained everything. You manipulated the situation to make her look bad. I looked at Kyson, who was shaking his head in disbelief. Dad, there are recordings, bank records, evidence. Evidence can be faked. Jesus Christ, I muttered. You're really going to defend her even now? She's our daughter, Mom said, and she's suffering because of what you've done. What about me? I'm your daughter too. What about what she did to me? Silence. Mom? Nina, I think it's best if we don't speak for a while, until you're ready to apologize and make this right. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. I'm sorry, Kyson said quietly. They chose her. Even after everything, they chose her. Then they're idiots who don't deserve you. That evening, Audrey came over with dinner and gossip from the country club. Oh, honey, you should have seen the looks on their faces when I told them the real story, she said, setting containers of food on the counter. Half of them had already heard about Prudence's arrest, and the other half were shocked. What are people saying? That they always knew something was off about her, that she was too perfect, too charming. Apparently, she's been borrowing money from friends for months and never paying it back. She borrowed money from friends? Thousands of dollars. Margaret Chen, Audrey caught herself. Margaret from the tennis club lent her $5,000 for some emergency, never saw a penny back. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but this time it wasn't threatening. Hi, Nina. This is Sarah from your high school class. I saw the news and wanted you to know that Prudence tried to borrow money from me last month. Said it was for fertility treatments. I'm so sorry you went through this. You're brave for standing up to her. Over the next few days, similar messages poured in. Former classmates, neighbors, even people I barely knew, all sharing stories about Prudence's lies and manipulations. The picture that emerged was of someone who'd been running cons for years, always staying one step ahead of the consequences, until now. On Friday, River called with an update. She's agreed to plead guilty to the theft charges in exchange for a reduced sentence, 2 years probation, full restitution, and a permanent restraining order. What about the stalking charges? Those are staying. The DA wants to make an example of her. That afternoon, I was resting on the couch when I heard shouting outside. I looked out the window to see Prudence standing on the sidewalk, screaming at Kyson's house. This isn't over, Nina. You think you've won, but you haven't. I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. Kyson was already on the phone with the police. Within minutes, a patrol car pulled up. I watched through the window as they arrested her again, this time for violating the restraining order. As they put her in the back of the police car, she looked directly at me through the window. Even from a distance, I could see the rage and hatred in her eyes. She's really lost it, Kyson said, sitting beside me on the couch. I know. And the scary part is, I think this is who she's always been. I just never wanted to see it. That night, I felt the baby kick for the first time. A strong, determined little flutter that made me smile despite everything. Did you feel that? I asked Kyson, grabbing his hand and placing it on my belly. His face lit up when the baby kicked again. Hello in there, little one. He's going to be okay, I said. We're going to make sure of it. He? Just a feeling. Kyson smiled. He's lucky to have you as his mom. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly at peace. Prudence had tried to destroy my life, but instead, she'd given me something I never expected. A real family. The baby came 3 weeks early on a Tuesday morning in March. His name is Oliver, I said, holding my son for the first time while Kyson sat beside my hospital bed, tears streaming down his face. He's perfect, Kyson whispered, gently touching Oliver's tiny hand. Absolutely perfect. Jordan burst through the door with balloons and flowers. I came as soon as I got your text. Oh my God, Nina, he's beautiful. Audrey arrived an hour later with enough baby clothes to outfit triplets. My first grandchild, she said, cradling Oliver like he was made of glass. I've been waiting for this moment for years. The room filled with laughter and joy, and for a moment I forgot about everything else. This was what family was supposed to feel like. Then my phone buzzed. It was Cade, my younger brother. He'd been texting sporadically over the past few months, caught between loyalty to our parents and his own conscience. "Congratulations on the baby. I saw the photos Jordan posted. He's beautiful." I showed the text to Kyson. "Should I respond?" "That's up to you," I typed back. "Thank you. His name is Oliver. I'd like to meet him sometime, if that's okay." "I'd like that too." The next message surprised me. "Mom and Dad don't know I'm texting you. They're still convinced Prudence is the victim in all this." "How is she?" "Not good. She's living in the basement, barely leaves her room. Dad's paying for her lawyer." I handed the phone to Kyson, who read the messages and shook his head. "Some people never learn," he said. 2 days later, we brought Oliver home to Kyson's house. Our house now, officially. I'd moved in permanently during my 3rd trimester, and somewhere along the way, it had stopped feeling temporary. We were settling into our new routine when River called with news. "Prudence violated her plea agreement," she said. "She created another fake social media account and started posting about you again. The DA is revoking the deal and pushing for jail time." "How much time?" 2 to 5 years, depending on the judge. I looked at Oliver sleeping in his bassinet, so peaceful and innocent. "Good. Maybe she'll finally get the help she needs." "There's something else. Your parents hired a lawyer. They're trying to claim grandparents' rights." My blood ran cold. "They want custody? Visitation? They're arguing that you're an unfit mother because of the family drama you caused." Kyson took the phone. "River, what are our chances?" "Slim to none. They have no legal standing, especially given their support of Prudence's criminal behavior. But it means more court dates, more stress." That evening, as I was feeding Oliver, there was a knock at the door. Kyson answered it, and I heard familiar voices. My parents. "We want to see our grandson," Mom said, pushing past Kyson into the living room. Dad followed, looking uncomfortable but determined. "Nina, this has gone on long enough." I stood up, holding Oliver protectively. "You need to leave." "We're his grandparents," Mom said. "You can't keep him from us. Watch me." "Nina, be reasonable," Dad said. "We know you're angry, but family is family." "You're right. Family is family. And you chose your family when you decided to support a criminal over your own daughter." Mom's face flushed red. "Prudence made mistakes, but she's still your sister. She's still our daughter. And I'm still your daughter too. But you wrote me off the moment I refused to go along with her scheme." "That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time you asked how I was doing? When's the last time you cared about my life, my feelings, my well-being?" I felt tears starting, but I pushed through. "You came here for him, not for me. You want access to your grandson, but you don't want a relationship with your daughter." The room went quiet, except for Oliver's soft breathing. "We raised you better than this," Dad said finally. "No, you didn't. You raised me to be Prudence's doormat. You raised me to put everyone else's needs before my own. You raised me to believe that keeping the peace was more important than standing up for myself." Kyson stepped beside me. "I think you should go." "This is between family," Mom snapped. "I am family," Kyson said firmly. "Nina and Oliver are my family, and you're not welcome here." After they left, I sat on the couch with Oliver, feeling drained but oddly relieved. "You okay?" Kyson asked, sitting beside me. "Yeah, I think I am." My phone buzzed. A notification from Facebook. Someone had tagged me in a post. It was Cade. He'd posted a photo of himself holding a sign that read, "I stand with my sister Nina. Abuse is not a family value." The post was already getting dozens of likes and supportive comments from people I'd grown up with. "I've stayed quiet too long," Cade had written. "My sister Nina is one of the strongest, most selfless people I know. She deserves better than the treatment she's received from our family. I'm proud to be her brother, and I'm proud to be Uncle Cade to baby Oliver. I started crying, happy tears this time. What is it? Kyson asked. I showed him the post. He smiled and pulled me closer. Looks like you've got more family than you thought. I looked down at Oliver, then at Kyson, then at my phone, showing all the supportive messages from friends and even strangers who'd followed our story. Yeah, I said, I really do. The next morning, I sat down at my laptop and started typing. My name is Nina, and I want to tell you a story about family, betrayal, and finding your worth. 6 months ago, I thought family meant sacrificing everything for people who would never do the same for you. I thought love meant accepting abuse and calling it loyalty. I was wrong. Real family doesn't ask you to destroy yourself for their benefit. Real love doesn't come with conditions and ultimatums. If you're reading this and you recognize yourself in my story, if you're the one always giving, always sacrificing, always making excuses for people who hurt you, please know that you deserve better. You deserve people who celebrate your victories instead of resenting them. You deserve people who protect you instead of throwing you under the bus. You deserve to be chosen, not just tolerated. It took me 29 years to learn that lesson. I hope it doesn't take you as long. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. And sometimes standing up for yourself is the most loving thing you can do. I posted it on my blog, shared it on social media, and sent it to a few online publications that had reached out about my story. Within hours, it had been shared hundreds of times. My inbox filled with messages from people sharing their own stories, thanking me for speaking out, telling me I'd inspired them to set boundaries with toxic family members. Oliver stirred in his bouncer, making soft baby noises. I picked him up and held him close. Your mama's kind of famous now, I told him. But don't worry, I'm not going to let it go to my head. Kyson walked into the room with coffee and the morning paper. How's our little celebrity doing? Good, really good. I kissed Oliver's forehead. We're all good. And for the first time in my life, I meant it.